So here we are then, for the ultimate time here in this year's Porsche Heuer Esports All-Stars. We've come to what a legendary circuit it is for us to come to, which is Circuit de la Sarthe in the north of France. And, well, it's myself, Paul Smith, and Sadicus here as always. But Matt, I mean, you're chilling by the Ferris wheel, you know.
They've got me figured out now, Paul, don't they? I mean, we started this year at various different locations. Spa, they were like party deck. This guy's on it. This, they're like Ferris wheel. He has the maturity of a 12-year-old, and this is where he should be. And as soon as this race is over, I'm going for a ride on that.
Yeah, I mean, you get a spectacular view from there, that's for sure. But, you know, legendary venue. We're coming towards the end of the season. I mean, this has been an absolute thrill ride, and we get to have a look at the circuit here. It's another long circuit, and it's another one where slipstream is going to be a big factor in today's racing.
Oh, absolutely. The Mulsanne Straight. I mean, look, there's a saying that Porsche owners and Porsche fans will know. It's nothing sounds better than the flat six of a Porsche at the end of the Mulsanne Straight, and that's absolutely the case. These cars around here are brilliant, but you're right, draft is going to be a huge factor. And then it's also a bit of guts. Obviously, we're in the GT3R for the All-Star race, and then we get into the Porsche Cup. The Porsche curves themselves, interestingly and aptly named, with the rear engine of the Porsche, can be pretty hairy and require a lot of commitment, as do a lot of the braking points for the chicanes. Not so much the two on the Mulsanne, but certainly in the front, the Ford and Dunlop chicanes can certainly be a commitment thing, if you will.
Yeah, they certainly can, and you can gain a lot of time through those. But you say, out in the Mulsanne, it is just one of those iconic places in world motorsport. It's a place that everybody knows about in the world of motorsport. And you said, well, there's no better sounding engine than a flat six from a Porsche down the Mulsanne.
Yes,
so let's have a look at the car.
Well, and exactly. Not all Porsches are flat sixes anymore. No. Obviously, they've this one in particular is, but there is some various cars now running V10s, V8s. It's been lots in it, but I still think the flat six is the most beautiful sound that the Porsches have in this car. The GT3R. I'm not sure if you've been around a track where these have been turning laps live.
Yes.
It is incredible. I had one pass me on track once, and I was just like shaking. It was like goosebumps. I was like, oh, I don't want to hear my car anymore. That thing just ripped my eardrums out through my car's engine and my helmet, and it sounded beautiful. That was actually at Mosport, so another long straightaway where they can really sing. And there you go. There's a look at the Porsche curves really quickly as we look also at what we're here for. This is the second last round, Paul. It's floating by, but we've got a championship, even in the All-Stars, that's up for grabs.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, Quirk, he has been an absolute revelation this season, hasn't he? He basically looked at the competition from last year and thought, I can have a piece of that, and he's come along and has shown everybody how to drive here this year.
Yeah, I mean, the one that impresses me, obviously, is the points average total, if we were to look at. Obviously, at the start of the year, we had various different Porsche drivers joining us at various times that were pretty impressive, but it's been Casey Kerwin since he's joined. It's just been so impressive the entire time, and, you know, credit to him. And honestly, I know he's mathematically not really in this, but can certainly be someone that spoils this for the others. Tyson Meyer, though, Quirk, his first season in this All-Star race is looking very, very solid, in my opinion. I've been very impressed with him. The guy is on iRacing all the time, and he's a lovely guy as well. He's just great. You stop into his stream, and he's very friendly and chats with just about everyone while driving, which is also impressive.
It certainly is, absolutely. And these drivers, I mean, they do absolutely sensational job out there on track. And speaking of out there on track, there are the drivers out there pushing on and getting the start of their qualifying, open qualifying here in the All-Stars here today. So all the drivers are going to be trying to get themselves into a draft train and get themselves the best possible lap time out there. But to be honest, qualifying, it's not the be-all and end-all around this track. It's, yeah, you want to be up near the front of the field, but at the end of the day, with the amount of slipstream that you can gain around here, and the amount of places that you can change, it's not the end of the day if you do not qualify on pole position.
Oh, you're absolutely right. No, that's couldn't be more accurate. You know, with the draft here, certainly, with the opportunities to sort of just get on the bumper of someone else. It's such a high-speed track. It's such a momentum-based track, and when you're running in a pack, yeah, you're not always comfortable out at the front. I'm sure we'll see that a little bit later on today when we get into Pesk, when we see the Porsche Cup cars on track, and everyone's so quick, and I'm sure they'll be divided by a fraction of a hair as always, but it will definitely be... you wouldn't want to be leading the race early, I don't think, is usually the case here. Just to note, Gamer Muscle, we're looking in on him. A lovely new setup. Apparently, he's moved down to the basement. He wants more privacy, and he's got the whole room reacquainted for his sim rig.
Yeah, I think he's also got air conditioning set up down there. That is his normal studio is down in the basement, but for whatever reason, he set up a rig when he was doing a bit of a review for his YouTube channel. But decided, well, I can't be bothered moving that rig, so I'll just stay in the living room. And down he went. But he's finally done it after months in the living room. He's now moved his equipment down into the basement. Altia, Sons. Well, it's a little bit of a rebrand, isn't it? It's Banana Bread Racing.
I'm into it, I guess. I like rebrands.
I mean, with the yellow.
Yeah, look, yellow is an underrated color on race cars. We talked about the orange as well. There's some colors that have been missing from racing. I think yellow, to be fair, has made a bit of a comeback because high flow has been popular ever since Braun in 2009, and then you've got Bicola's running it. Lando Norris has it on his helmet. I mean, to be fair, he has it on his helmet because of Rossi, who had it the whole time. So I think that one's there. Orange is definitely fallen out. I think purple could make a comeback as well.
I always rock the purple. You see? I'm a purple guy.
I think the sort of what's the vaporware, I think is what they're calling it, where you've a great example would be Dan Suzuki has that sort of aqua green and purple. That has a bit of it, but there's definitely some colors and liveries that I don't know, I kind of miss in a lot of the ways. Even green has been kind of forgotten about as a base color. Sure, accents and whatnot are there, and obviously IMSA has accented mirrors that are green, but. Yeah, I don't know. Let's talk liveries, Paul. I'm loving it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the drivers are getting themselves to the end of their out lap here, so we are going to be starting their hot laps here now with just under 8 minutes remaining. It is going to be a little bit tight as to whether they do actually get their qualifying done and dusted with maybe 2 laps here. But Matt Malone is heading up this little quartet. Down the pit straight they go. In towards the sweeping right-hander here through turn 1 into the chicane. There's Matt behind the wheel, always looks frantic behind the wheel and absolute focus. Careful not to run too far wide on the exit of the chicane because you can get a slow down penalty. Then through the S's, plunge downhill into the S's here. Beautiful part of the course. It cambered nicely through that left into the right, but it pushes you out wide on the exit and then Tete Rouge. I mean, how much fun is Tete Rouge?
Tete Rouge is a phenomenal corner. Another one of those commitment corners where you're trying not to use much brake. Just lift, chuck the car in, hope you nail the apex and don't run out too wide on the exit. It gives you a lovely straightaway speed in toward the Mulsanne. Now, just to note, iRacing does simulate the crowning of the road more so than a lot of the other sims. So running right now where Borizazo is, okay, he's got a draft, not the end of the world, isn't actually faster as where you actually want to sit in the middle of the road because it's crowned, therefore it's higher in the middle, opposite of each wheel.
That was very
Please
close
no Punterino. Apparently some invalidated lap times as well, and certainly you can see it there on the right as, who is this here in the red car? Different livery this week, that's Mavix, so he's run a little bit wide on the exit, but no, you can actually get a speed advantage because it effectively lowers the ride height. Not only are you pushing with more downforce at speed, you're bringing the road closer to the middle of that diffuser, and you can actually gain a couple hundredths of a second, which is quite a bit of a difference when you actually think of it. There you go, there's that vaporware Dan Suzuki livery, but just to go back to your point as well about, Tete Rouge, the corner just before when you're coming into it, you're right, it does push you out wide, and that corner you can very easily mess up, and if you drop a wheel on the outside of the curb, there ain't nothing there but grass, and you can actually, if you still have some lock in the wheel, spin the car there.
Yeah, you certainly can, and have a friendly hello to the barrier on the either side of the track, because I've seen cars go off on both sides of that track around there, either loop and go to the inside or...
Barney and Barrier, the iconic iRacing duo, the flagman and the wall. You'll see one of them within the race, that's guaranteed.
Well, here's Casey Kerwin. He is somebody who has really had a good season so far. Came in and just decided to say, okay, we're going to go motor racing, are we? And that's exactly what he's done. And he's been tremendous. He's backed out of it though there. But here's championship leader, Tyson Mayer. I mean, he's always been good for humour and the post-race comments as well. He's got the Jimmy B hoodie on as well. So he's representing Jimmy. Unfortunately, not able to race with us anymore here on the All Stars. But Tyson decided, we're gonna represent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, these guys all have tremendous respect for each other. They're all colleagues in a way, given that they're all streamers, they're all entertainers, and they'll all be looking out for each other, whether it's, streaming tips or base rights, whatever the case may be. You always work together in an industry like that, and they'll have respect for each other. They love that each other can kind of lean on their communities, and they host and stream and raid, and not all of them stream at the same time, right? So it's worth it to kind of be a fan of the other person's community as well, and I think that's pretty cool. There's no animosity between these guys. Obviously, there's no need for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Maxime, as always, here in this one. Now, one driver, unfortunately, we are missing. And you did note it pre-race.
Yeah.
Emily Jones.
I saw it when we were in sort of our preamble ahead of going live with the broadcast, and obviously they're in a practice session at that point before we roll into qualifying. And I noticed her name was absent, and I thought, maybe she's just late joining, but no, she is not here. So that's significant. This is the second last race, as we said, and we know Quirk is the championship leader. She is second place in the championship. Well, today, she's not going to be scoring any points because she's just not here. So that's a bit unfortunate for her. I'm sure it would have been interesting. Let's going to take a look at the championship leader, though, as Quirk apparently had some drama at the curves named after the car, the Porsche curves. Paul.
Yeah, let's take a look at this and see what's happened momentarily. There we go. There's the graphic, and here is Quirk, who has set the fastest time, by the way, so far in qualifying, and he's showing you how to really hang out the back end of the car.
I'm impressed.
Maybe not the best in terms of ultimate lap time, but it certainly does look good.
Look, I mean, he's full committed into it, so he's carrying a lot of entry speed, and you're right, he's going to scrub off, he's going to overheat the tires, but I expected drama when I was told we were going to that replay. That was actually well held. It is near enough the end of the lap, and you really have two hard braking points that you can cool the tires down to beforehand. If you did that early in the lap, you would struggle and lose time for a much larger portion of your journey around this iconic circuit. But in that case, through Porsche, if you can get some speed out of committing, it's not the end of the world because you just got to nail the braking for the two last chicanes. So, yes, you're right. He'll lose a bit of time, but it could be a lot worse if it was somewhere else on the circuit. Early in the lap, Tete Rouge or something, for example, would really cost you.
Oh, Hydra now getting into the top four of qualifying. That's good to see. Representing France, of course, and really... wants a good result here. We've seen it, haven't we, this season, that drivers have had good results in the home races. I mean, you just think back to Heuer 360.
Yeah, absolutely. Barcelona, which is where he picked up a victory. Speaking of the home races, we'll look at the schedule now because we've got to look backwards to see the bulk of what we've done so far this season. We did start at the Hockenheim Ring, fittingly, I think, because that's where we did our... we did our finale in server at Monza, but we did our show last year at Hockenheim, so we kicked it off there this year. And then, of course, Barcelona, as you mentioned, Paul, and some lovely circuits leading up to where we are right now at the 24-hour of Le Mans. Yeah, or the 24-hour circuit, I should say. Yeah, absolutely. The Circuit de la Sarthe, to give it its other title. But, next week, not next week, but in 2 weeks' time, it is, of course, the championship finale. And these All-Stars, we're totting up the votes at the moment. I know that the people behind the scenes at iRacing are currently busy getting those final votes for from the drivers to decide which car we are going to be running next time out in the All-Stars. So it does go down to that driver vote. We'll be hopefully giving you those results as to what car they'll be driving towards the end of the All-Stars show here. So hopefully we get that in. Speaking of Heuer 360, we've been talking about him. Has quite a wide wheel. He's got a big wheel there. So that actually is the Porsche
the Porsche
wheel.
rim, yeah.
Exactly that. So it's a 320 diameter, full circular rim, D-shaped, so it has a flat bottom, and it runs the podium button module, which is actually pulled straight from the Porsche Cup car. It does mean you've got to run bigger rims on it. I have one. I run actually a turn rim on it, and it's a 305, but I have to run a spacer, which makes it a little less ergonomic. But it's a lovely setup. And then, of course, he runs the Fanatec Podium paddle module behind it, which has a hand clutch. You've got your shifters, and then 2 other buttons. Usually, I think people and I have them bound to brake bias, because that's the next most frequent adjustment I think you would make. So it's a good setup, that wheel, actually. Very good setup.
Well, we'll be able to give you your starting grid then for this opening race, and it is Quirk, your championship leader, hoping to get this championship signed, sealed and delivered by the end of today. He's on the front row along with Dan Suzuki. Heike 360 though, and Hydra row number 2 with, look at that, Adia there in row number 3 along with Gamer Muscle, James West. Real good qualifying for Team Assant. And then Maxime with Bose Zaza on row number 4. Row 5 is Matt Malone and Casey Kerwin. We've got 2 drivers now who did not set a lap time. Stradi and Mavix TV. And then your final driver, Yardier, on the back row of the grid.
Not used to seeing him back there. So yeah, a few people didn't get times in, and there is a few places you can get X's. I mentioned it. X at the Tete Rouge, you can certainly pick one up. You can in the Porsche curves, Indianapolis a little bit, but also just to note as well, in those Mulsanne chicanes, you take too much curb, you're going to lose the lap.
Yeah, you certainly are. Hopefully we don't see any of the drivers heading off to the fast food joints down the Mulsanne Straight. Hopefully they'll be keeping going in the race. But we're getting set. The revs are rising now for these drivers. Looking towards the starting gantry. Green light is on. Away we go then for this opening race of the day here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports All-Stars. Down towards turn number 1. It's a brilliant start from Dan Suzuki. Got the jump on Tyson Mayer. Rest of your drivers coming through in towards the chicane for the first time. We've got 1 or 2 going deep. Heike 360's cut the corner completely. Hydro gets bullied out the way there.
Well held, Hydro. I thought he was going to lose that. Lot of wheel smoke off the back wheels. I thought he lost the back end. We've got a slowdown penalty already, though, and that's for Heike 360. I think he likely lifts off. It's the first lap, so it's not going to be too detrimental based on his average pace. And that was obviously, as we saw him, he had to take evasive action and go to the inside. Big miss on the start as well by Maxime. I think she just completely bogged down, as did Quirk. And we saw Maxime losing position at the back, but Quirk got a good initial launch. But I don't think he was flat into the throttle, and Dan was able to keep those wheels spinning and getting going, whereas Quirk actually lost a lot of speed on the second phase of the start, if you will. But right now, he's got the draft.
Well, he did have the draft because he's moved to the front of the field, and these two have already got a bit of a breakaway here. Now, if these two work together here, going down these straights, down the Mulsanne Straight and down towards Indianapolis. Oh, we've got tyre smoke in the background there at the first chicane. Of course, the newly named Daytona chicane. As we've got a car crabbing there. I think it's Jardier towards the rear, and I think he's going to have to park that. But yeah, the front two, if these two can work together, they can keep themselves close together but pull away from the rest of the field, because they do not want Casey Kerwin dragging the rest of the pack along with them.
Absolutely not, and not least of which they just don't want Casey Kerwin. Keep that man away. He's been so quick all year, you might as well take the advantage when you can get it. And yeah, you're right, you can bump draft a little bit if you're Dan Suzuki right now. Use that lovely hand clutch, roll into the corners, and just make sure that you guys keep it tidy. As you say, there's a 2-second gap right now back to Casey, and he's got a bit of a gap as well, almost a full second. 8/10 back to Heike. So Heike will have a bit of a draft, but it's not going to help not going to help Casey at any points in this lap. And I think, yeah, Dan had a look there, I think, just coming out of the corner just to see what was what, but I doubt he makes a move here. I say that, and it's Dan Suzuki, so who knows?
Well, the thing is, if you do make the move, if you're Quirk, you just don't fight it. You just let him go
there's
past.
The bump draft. There it is.
Yeah, so they're giving each other a little bit of helping hand here. They're trying to get away from Casey Kerwin, and you're absolutely right. Casey has had so much speed and so much pace this season since he's come in, and he is a threat to these drivers. Quirk, he can afford to not win a race. He's at the front of the championship, and is scoring a good set of points. Now, Dan Suzuki, with the length of these straights here, can maybe give us a little bit of a guitar session.
You and him can jam together.
Yeah.
Don't you play as well?
No, I don't.
I thought you played.
No.
All right, well, you were way cooler when I thought you played, so I'll just pretend you do.
I play the kazoo. That's what I play.
That's actually awesome. There you go. I play the triangle, so it's perfect. We can be percussion for Dan. No, that's another driver that's actually moved location since we last saw him. We talked about Gamer Muscle relocating within the house, whereas Dan Suzuki has relocated to a new house, which is why we missed him last time out. So great to see him back with us. And just to note as well, we saw him kind of drop a wheel on the entry of Indianapolis, run to Anage. He actually lost 2/10. As long as it's him behind Quirk and he stays in the draft, not a big deal. If Quirk in front's the one that's slowing them both up, then Casey's going to chip back away at it. So Dan has a bit of forgiveness in that positioning because he'll be able to draft back into Quirk on the straights, but not lose too much time overall in the aggregate to Casey Kerwin. As we'll take a look back at Matty Malone and what happened to him earlier in this race, because I think he's got a little bent nose there.
Yeah, it does. So this is going down towards...
excuse me.
Yeah, this is going down towards the Daytona chicane. They're going 3 wide, which isn't always advisable. And yeah, it's unfortunately, I'm going to have to say, Jardier, you've turned across 2 other cars there, I'm afraid.
Yes, you typically see that when you're watching Le Mans. An LMP2 will hip check a GT3 car, for example. I remember Mathieu Vexvier, I can never say his name correctly, hip checking the Rizzi Competizione Ferrari a few years ago, straight into the wall. Exactly like that, but you're right. I think Yardia was a little bit early and eager to try and get back into the braking point. So I take back, Matty Malone looks all right, actually. From a distance, when we jumped to that, it looked like he had a bent nose, but obviously my eyes are the only thing bent in this occasion. I'm too high up on this Ferris wheel is the problem. He's too far away from me right now.
Yeah, so Matt Malone, I think, has had issues on this lap as well through the S's, and that's dropped him down to 12th place behind Hydra right now, down the Mulsanne straight. Interesting thing to note, I know I say this every time I do a broadcast around this circuit, Mulsanne straight, same length as at Sebring International Raceway. To give you some perspective.
Oh, of the whole circuit, yes.
Yes.
Okay, I was like, are you crazy? Like, are you mad? That straightaway might be a runway, but it's not this long. I've actually got a lovely poster right in front of me with all of the tracks in the world. Well, not all, but a lot of the famous ones in the world inside of the Isle of Man TT to scale. And you may have seen that, some of you on Google, and I was just looking up. I was like, what? That's not the same size at all, Paul.
There's Matt. That's what's happened to Matt at the S's there. Gets into the gravel trap. Fortunately, not able to get stuck in the gravel trap. It means that he is able to get out and to carry on in this race. But yeah, drivers just getting a little bit spread out and getting themselves into a bit of a rhythm here. We've got Gamer Muscle down to 6th place after a good start. Got him up to 5th. He's moved behind Mavix TV and he's now got Stradi and Borjazazo. Borjazazo, he's not happy. He's not having the best of races here, is Borja. Very nice shirt once again as Stradi ahead, making moves on Gamer Muscle.
Yeah, it's interesting. Borjazazo this year, start of the season, was consistently a front runner in the series, and he's kind of been up and down ever since. A bit of inconsistency since we left that 992 Cup car. So yeah, kind of curious, because normally I think last year when he joined the series sort of halfway through the year, he made an impact. Maybe he needs to go back to the ties. I said he was getting that ninja look, so he was going to get his elbows out, but maybe he just needs to get back to that formal feature of the lovely bow tie and make gains in that regard.
Always reminds me, whenever I see a racing driver in bow ties, it always reminds me of people like Graham Hill. You know, seeing them in
yes.
Mike Hawthorne as well. He used to race in a bow tie. You know, people like that. That always reminds me of those old school drivers from well before I was even around. So before anybody says that I'm old, I'm not that old.
Okay, Dad. All all right? If you weren't around, that wasn't even thought of yet, okay?
I will say that my dad actually once met Graham Hill and got his Graham Hill's autobiography signed by him to my father in the paddock at Brands Hatch.
Oh, that's cool. Good place to be, Brands Hatch. I want to go there. That's one of the circuits I think I need to check out in the flesh at some point in time.
Well, unfortunately, no longer used in the Porsche Tagore Esports Supercup. It is somewhere we've been in the past in the series, but certainly a good venue is that circuit. Dan Suzuki has dropped back from
work. He's having a bit of a mare, because I said all he had to do was stay in that draft, but he's not. Casey, all right.
That's an exuberant way around Tete Rouge, and I think he's suddenly got a bit excited that he's got somebody to play with down the straight now.
Well, that'll be a 1X. Luckily, not a slowdown. Dan actually had a slowdown, so that contributed largely to why Quirk has gotten away. But I said all he had to do was stay in that draft and not really put too much pressure on it. Keep tires cool, keep brakes cool, relax the car a bit. And obviously, he's failed to do so. We know Quirk is pretty consistent, but unfortunately, Dan couldn't stay with him. Casey's gone by. If Dan can now latch onto Casey, there's a chance he can catch back up, but that's obviously not gone his way the first time around. So Casey might be on his own, the lone gunner to go after Quirk at this point.
And the problem is when draft is broken, you need now. This is where Casey and Dan need to again, as we were saying with the two leads at the time, they need to work together to try and push themselves towards Quirk.
I love that pylon gets flicked every lap. That poor Marshall that's running out there to put it back. It's futile. Why is he bothering at this point?
I can tell you, as a former rally marshal, we used to have to rebuild junctions on rallies every so often because of drivers being inconsiderate, wanted to go fast. How dare they?
I may or may not have red flagged an entire practice session because I decided to get aggressive in turn one at Mosport, where they had a curb or sort of a manhole cover on the outside of the wall, and they pile on it for the practice sessions, and I just decided that pylon didn't need to be there because I wanted to use a faster line. And they stopped the whole session after I moved it the third time, and I got a little warning for that one.
Well, here's a little bit of action further down the field then. It's Matt Malone, it's Maxime, and it's Hydra all together on track, 10th, 11th, 12th. And Hydra's looking very racy at the back of this group now. Matt Malone ahead of Maxime. He'll be wanting to try and pull away now, but what Maxime has the benefit of now is that draft in front. But Hydra, 2 cars of draft in front of him, can maybe move forward here and try and get with Matt Malone once again. Down towards Indianapolis they go then. It is then Matt Malone at the head of this little gaggle of cars. Maxime sticking with him. And Hydra right behind, looking into Indianapolis. You can make moves around there, but you've got to be a little bit brave. Take a brave pill to make that move stick. We saw last year in the Porsche Tagore Esports Supercup how it's not wise to go 4 wide into Indianapolis, and it doesn't work out all the time. But I have seen moves with drivers going side by side through there, down and making the moves as we go on board with Maxime. Being very calm behind the wheel of her motor car right now, and just trying to follow Matt Malone here. This is what you've mentioned it all along, Matt, that you've got to try and stick with it. But Malone carries so much speed, so much more confidence through the Porsche curves. And Hydra, you can see that rear view monitor all over the back.
It's a massive commitment corner. Even in these cars with more downforce, you'll see it with the Porsche Cup cars a little bit later on as well. Those guys are just going to be sending it in there, and the back just wants to step out. You're just delicately trying to balance the throttle. You don't want to put too much steering input in either, because then the back really wants to step. You also want to commit and get as close to the wall as you can, that blue wall between the 2 curbs. But then, like I say, you've got these lovely chicanes at the end of the lap. You can really attack, really smash up over them. And as long as you don't unsettle the rear too much, you can really handle it out of the corner.
Casey Curlin is really flying here right now. He's pulled away from Dan Suzuki. He's got 1.8 seconds between himself and Tyson Meyer. So him and Quirk, the gap is coming down slightly at the front. So definitely Tyson's going to be under a little bit of pressure potentially here. Casey is in a little bit of draft, but he's using the middle of the road. He's using the crown of the road, as we've said and pointed out earlier with our fluid dynamics expert Sadakis here.
I don't know about that, but I'll take it.
Well, you certainly explained it better than I could with the aerodynamics. Here's a replay of how much Casey is pushing.
This is Tete Rouge again, and like I said, you could try and get through this corner with as little brake as possible and really, really send it. Now, depending on tire model in real life and sort of what stage the tire's at or in their life, what sort of stint you're on, you can get away with that and not really do too much damage. It won't overheat them much. In iRacing, you're going to not want to do that too often because that'll heat them up. Now, fortunately, you're on a straightaway right after, so it does give them a bit of a breather, but that's not the fastest way through, but it is certainly the most exciting looking way through, I think.
Well, it's certainly working for him, though, isn't it? Because that gap has come down to 1.5 seconds now. At the start of the lap, it was 1.9, so he's already gained 0.4 of a second on Quirk, and before long, he's going to be getting the advantage of that slipstream. So you're really going to see that expedite and get closer and closer, quicker and quicker as he gets closer. So Tyson Meyer, just got to focus forward. You can't. This is something that I've seen with lots of drivers, especially when they're new to racing, new to sim racing, and this is something that you won't see with Quirk, but a lot of sim racers, when they get into it, they just get so focused on that car closing up behind and looking in the mirrors that they then start making mistakes or going slower, and it's something that you see in real world racing as well.
Absolutely. It's something you have to get used to, and it's more daunting when you don't know the person in your mirror. When I race at my local track and Lee's behind me and I know he's got the faster car, I'm not too worried because I know where he's quick, I know what he drives like, I know where he's going to make a move. When you don't, when someone behind you don't race with often, you go to another track, that's where you also can start looking in your mirror a little bit too much. So it's nice to be in a familiar battle to calm your nerves a bit as well. It's also why karting is such a good thing at the start. You don't have mirrors. You got to be aware. You learn to be aware by just looking to the apex and using your peripherals from time to time, as Maxime's making a move potentially on the last lap. Is this the last lap? Next one by, I think will be. Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got one more on the clock still. But Maxime trying to make forward against Idro right now, and good little exchange, and not to mention Matty Malone's not far ahead either, so this could be a three-way soon.
Well, Matty Malone was actually a lot further ahead. He went and spun going in towards Arnage, which really doesn't help matters.
Matt's been spinning around more than the Ferris wheel behind me this race, to be honest.
So we should be on the final lap right now, although I think Barney's on strike once again because he's not waving his flag. But as we go going across the line once again, and Casey, he's lost time on the second half of that lap, so he's really struggled out there on the second half of that previous lap there, and in fact that last lap Casey was about a tenth slower than Quirk, so does lose some time. He's been very rapid through Tete Rouge, and we'll see whether he can do it once again. We'll stick with that through Tete Rouge. Not quite as impressive through that right-hander, but it really slingshots you onto the Mulsanne straight. Down the straight they go. And, well, Quirk, I mean, he didn't have the best of starts, it's fair to say. He didn't get off the line well, and Dan Suzuki did take an early lead here in this race, but ever since, he's just really been able to just take it easy up at the front.
I've just actually had a call into the chief official, and apparently here at Cirque de la South, you have to be an A-list celebrity to wave the flag at the start-finish line, as we know. And Barney's only on the L-list celebrities. In my opinion, he's an incredible person who deserves more credit, but just not qualified here at Le Mans. So that's why he's not waving the flag. We'll call Rafael Nadal or Roger Federer or Serena Williams. Look, I don't know why I'm talking all tennis right now. We'll call someone. We can call Paul. You can go wave the flag, but Barney's not allowed, apparently.
No, I'm sorry, but I'm barely even an itty, let alone a celebrity.
You might be an idiot, but I like you. I won't finish that.
Yeah, let's not. But as we go along towards Mulsanne Corner, and Kerwin is trying, you can see then he is trying, but I think it's a bit too far on this last lap to catch up. 1.8 seconds with about half a lap to go. Granted, that is a very long half a lap around here.
Yeah, down to the 56s. Casey's dipped into a 55 at one point in time as well in this race, which is why his name is still highlighted in purple, which is a quick time, just to give perspective. And I'm not necessarily the greatest gauge of speed in iRacing, but I was doing a bit of lapping on this track just to come to terms sort of with what the pace might be. I like the GT3s. I like this circuit quite a bit. And I was running, I think, in sort of the low 58s. Now, track temperature and all that notwithstanding, that's quick for these guys to be doing these lap times on the sprint fixed setup. So very, very solid job for both of these guys. And you're right, Casey has had the consistency in pace, but it's just too little too late. He's only really chipped away from what that gap was on lap 1 at 2 seconds to 1.7 now. So even though, yes, it's come down more frequently in the last few laps, it's really the same as what we saw at the start.
As I head towards the world-famous Porsche curves, and it is really truly a test of driver and machine through this section of the circuit. Not really getting close to the wall there, the safer barrier. Through the right and then the left at the exit of the Porsche curves. And then we're heading through towards the end of the lap and the end of the race. And Quirk, well, he had a little bit of company for the first lap and a half, 2 laps, but now he's been out on his own at the front. Just don't cut the course, and you're in for a race win over the curbs, across the line to see the checkered flag. And Tyson Meyer, Quirk, is your race winner. Casey Kerwin, a close second place. Here's a close battle. Out on track then is Hacker 360 and Mavix TV across the line, and Mavix just not able to quite get there. Porsche Zazo is going to finish in 7th place. Here's Hydra. I mean, unfortunately, we've not seen that much from Hydra this season, but he seems to be really up for this one, and he is there. He is trying to get the position from Matt Malone at the end here. Looking to the inside, but it's very difficult to make any move into the chicane.
Very difficult indeed, especially these last two, because they dart and dive so much and switch back, so he's not quite going to be enough. Good run at the end to try and catch Matty Malone, have to be said, but it's just not his day on his, I guess, somewhat home track. I know France is a relatively big country, but we'll give him that. That said, Matty Malone holding on despite dramas to keep that 10th position.
Yeah, certainly does. Here's your results from the sprint race then. It is Quirk who wins this one ahead of Casey Kerwin. Dan Suzuki, a good podium then after leading off the start. Finishes in 3rd in the end ahead of Heike 360 and Mavix TV. Stradi and Porsche Zazo then 6th and 7th place ahead of Gamer Muscle in 8th. Banana Braids Racing, Altia Buck, a great result for her in 8th place. And the rest of your results, Jardier having that issue, unfortunately of his own doing, down at the chicane, at Daytona chicane should I say, ends up 1 lap down from the rest of the field. But, Matt, that's the first race of the All-Stars done. We've got a feature race coming up. And these drivers, okay, it wasn't the most action-packed of races out there, but still, they put on a good little show for us here in that sprint race.
A great show, has to be said. And at the start looked very exciting. Dan Suzuki making a return, trying to get to terms with his new home in this series, quite literally as he's moved house, but couldn't quite hold it together. Just too many mistakes that let that slip away. And speaking of mistakes, poor Matty Malone was prone to a few this race. Casey Kerwin, look, I know he's quick on ovals. I know he's quick in road racing. I didn't know he was also good at drifting, but apparently he is, Paul. The guy is just an absolute masterclass. The man's an animal, and he's shown it again today.
It certainly has. There's the Ferris wheel, by the way, that you're sat near.
I'm just going up to the top now, about 3 cars from the top.
But here's how things stand at the moment with the points, and yeah, Quirk way out front right now. He'll be nice and comfortable towards the end of this race. He wanted to basically sew things up here this week rather than having it go to 2 weeks' time at Monza for that championship. So Emily Jones, she's going to pass on the crown on to Tyson Mayer, I would imagine, by the end of today. Of course, pending any decisions made by the stewards afterwards, of course.
I think we should just have a vote right now in chat from all our viewers about what sort of penalty Tyson should get right now. If it's success ballast or just straight DQ. I don't know. They can get creative.
I don't know, maybe an 87-point.
Exactly. We'll just give him an 87-point penalty. Exactly that math for no reason at all. Just completely arbitrary and random.
Well, what we do get in the second race, of course, is we do get that reverse grid, a completely inverted grid for these drivers here. So it does mean that those that finish at the back, like Jardier, for example, get a second opportunity in this longer race to move forward and try and get a good result. And that's what's good about these all-star races. It does give everybody an opportunity of getting a good result out of everything here in these events.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. And I think it's been a ton of fun again to watch these GT3 cars around here. I think, look, they're a very suitable car. They race here in real life, as do the Porsche Cup cars. I know a lot of people may not be familiar with this, but they do the pre-race to the 24-hour of Le Mans. There's support races for a reason, not least of which to get an audience to see different drivers and cars, but also to rubber in the circuit for the actual racing itself. And make sure that, you know, it's not a street track that's so dusty and sandy and green for the main event. And they're very well suited around here. There's no question about it. And sure, I think the Porsche Cup car is a little more raw. The GT3 is just a hoot. It's so fast down the Mulsanne. And like I said, it sounds beautiful, and you can still commit and be pretty ballsy with it.
And of course, the GT3 car with traction control, with ABS as well to help those drivers into those chicanes. But Matt, I believe you've got a guest joining us here in the commentary booth.
I think we do, absolutely, Althea. And we tried to speak with you last time. You've done a rebrand now. What's this Banana Braids Racing all about?
It's quite personal. It's a long story short, but I needed a fresh start, so I'm starting with this brand new name on Twitch now, mostly rather than YouTube. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Awesome, I like it. And listen, this is your home track. That must be pretty cool to be able to ride around Cirque du Sarthe in such a beautiful car.
I thought you might say that, but I actually didn't know the track, so I was really dreading this week because I had to learn it from scratch. I didn't know where the turns were going.
You know, I think you should blame your spotter. I think Yuri probably was the reason that you didn't figure it out sooner, just to point that out.
Yeah, I'll make sure I'll tell him.
Yeah, please do. And if he has any problems, he can bring it up with me. What do you expect on the reverse grid this time?
Ooh, well, I'm hoping, because I can see the pace of some of the drivers that got a bit luckier than me at the start of the first race, that I can have some great battle. So, I don't know, I'm hoping for a top 10 again. All
right, well, we'll see if it goes your way. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go, Paul. Yeah, reverse grid coming up. This is always exciting. I think in the All-Star Series that we just swap everybody, not just the top 8. It's just start it over, put them backwards. Maybe start them in literally reverse, Paul.
Well, I mean, that would be a sight. I have seen reverse car racing before, clips of that. But speaking of that reverse grid, here we are then. Jardier and Maxime sharing the front row of the grid. Hydro gets a good shot at a potential good result here. Again, another home driver. Alongside him is Matt Malone with, there was always to Althea, Banana Braids Racing, and Game Muscle sharing row number 3. Row 4 then for Porsche Zazo and Stradi with Babbitt's TV and Heike 360. Dan Suzuki, Casey Kerwin, and then right at the back of the field it is Quirk, and look at that then, quick on the mark, away we go for this feature race then. The flyby hasn't even finished. We've got the tricolor in the air as it goes towards the turn number 1 for the first time into the chicane. Oh, Game of Muscle darting to the inside. There's a spinner. It's Matt Malone. He's around. Oh, Hydro as well is around.
Those two can't separate themselves. They can't. He's like, Matt, you spun? I'll spin too. We're going to race each other again, man. We're staying together. Matty Malone is just having a real Ferris wheel out there.
It certainly is. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. But the Jardier at the front of the field, but look at that, 3.9 seconds already in the lead. Maxime second ahead of Gamer Muscle. And this track, it can be a real leveler to a degree for some of those drivers out there. So never see that's the view from Jardier's car. Unbelievable.
Did you bring binoculars? I didn't. Is there anyone there?
I think we need somebody to get a zoom on that one or something like that.
Wow, this is nuts. I mean, okay, 4 wide. We can see it now. Thankfully, we've switched the zoom because it's a little bit more chaotic than we would have thought. Dan Suzuki, he must have drafted by about 3 people that straightaway. He's going to leave lots of racing room. Very smartly gets it done. Ooh, a little bit of a nudge. Casey Kerwin gets a hip check, but they'll stick it together. They're going to hold this out.
Certainly are. Bolgezazo, though, to the head of that gaggle of cars. And really, now it's a case of Maxime's got a little bit bullied out the way. She's got herself back into the draft pack, though. Gamer Muscle's going a little bit defensive here. That's quite aggressive from Gamer Muscle.
Oh, that's an early break.
Mavix, bumps Maxime. Tries to keep alongside and ends up losing 1, 2, maybe 3 spots there. What did you rejoin?
Good play from Quirk. Stay wide. Saw that one coming. He's obviously got to rejoin the circuit at some point. I think Maxime did the right thing, but the maybe slightly wrong execution. So he was anticipating that in front, that contest and the side-by-side under braking wasn't the best, but she could have lifted early, and I think that was expected. As soon as she tapped the brakes, well, all of a sudden it was almost a brake check. And there was really nowhere to go. We saw Maxime get involved. We saw 3 or 4 different drivers end up squabbling, and then the rejoin, and there's Maxime again, who this time, unfortunately, is not pointed the right direction at all.
That's at I was about to say Maxime corner. It's at Mulzard.
It is her corner now.
Yeah, it's her corner, absolutely. As we head on down the run towards Indianapolis, and Mavix has got a slow down penalty as well, so he's dropped down to the back of this field.
I assume that is likely when he took avoiding action after that. Unintentional. Yeah. I don't think it was an intentional brake check. No. I don't want to paint Maxime in the wrong light, but that put him way wide, and then he was well inside of the second apex curb. Going to get a replay right here of exactly how that happened to Maxime, though. That spin, so she just turns in. Oh, she lost it on her own. I think she just had a little bit too much brake on and turning. I thought maybe we were going to get a tap from Heike, but I think the pitch of the car may have already been around before she arrived on his bumper.
And unfortunately, the car did stay over to the side there. It didn't bounce back onto the middle of the track. So that's fortunate for those drivers out there to not get pinballed around there. Dan Suzuki's up to second place already after starting on the penultimate row of the grid. So already having some big moves. He's now got his sights set towards Jardier. But Casey Kerwin, he's going to come with him. He's enjoying the ride. And they've both managed to get ahead of Bolgezazo. Gamer Muscle's got Quirk behind him.
Yardier, just to note, was one of the drivers who had his time deleted in qualifying. And I did mention it's pretty rare we see him on the back of the grid. So I think he was eager in the first race to get forward, knowing that he had more pace than that. Here's a better look at the incident with Maxime and whether or not it was actually Heike who started. I think it was, actually. That was a better look. I think just a bit of a clip. It's tough to call that one because he's not really alongside, but she also comes over a lot quicker than Heike might have expected there. So a bit of a stumble for each of them, but yeah, it's a tough one. But no, just to go back to Yardia, I think he has a bit more pace than we saw from that first race, and he, now that he's clear away, he might be able to hold something in this race.
Well, Quirk is not moving his way through the field to the same effect as Dan Suzuki and Casey Kerwin. He's just had a slow down penalty as Quirk, so he's dropped down to 8th place behind Straddy and Heike 360. So we know how intense those two drivers can race each other. Here's Casey Kerwin then. We're on board now. Is he going to bump draft? They are getting closer to Jardier. No, he's pulling out. He's wanting to sweep by. And if I'm Dan Suzuki, it's like, okay, you go ahead. Get in your draft then, and we'll try and be draft partners moving forward.
Gonna get cleanly through. First chicane is my personal favorite of the two along the Mulsanne because you can commit to the curves a little bit more. You can actually get wide of that white line as long as you straddle that curve we just saw, that one that leads right back onto the straightaway, the last apex of the complex. And you can really use a lot of the road. The second one's a little quicker and a lot more braking, and it's a bit sharper on the right. It doesn't flow the same way. So as we come into that now, you'll see what I mean, because you got to slow the car down a lot more, and it's not quite as conducive to overtaking because of that, even though I say it. We're 2x2, bye-bye pylon yet again. Won't leave a mark on that orange car because it's the same color. So he's actually probably just touching up the paint, and that's what I'm talking about. It closes in, it narrows down on that exit because you have to tighten the car, and therefore you're more compelled to use all of the road because you've got to tighten the steering.
And Quirk has done a very good job there to actually hold on to that, hasn't he? Because that unsettled the car, did that little bit of a side rub, and he's carried on. But Gamer Muscle, I mean, he's looking very racy today, I must say. It must be the fact that he's got air conditioning down in his basement. He really is looking more comfortable behind the wheel, and really giving those drivers a bit of a run here in this race.
Did Casey get a haircut? Because he's flying in clean air right now. No drag. He's actually now down to 2.7 seconds behind Jardier, so he's making gains right now.
Oh, this is going to end in tears. I can just see it now. I've already got visions of what's going to happen as we're in towards Indianapolis. Oh, Gamer Muscle back end out, gets bullied out of the way there by Heike 360, and Quirk says, "Thank you very much. I'll take that place."
Yeah, Quirk's smart about that. It takes one, because I thought he was going to get greedy and try and get out the inside of Heike as well. And if that wasn't saved by Gamer Muscle, all three of them would have been off. So that could have been huge, but smart from Quirk.
It was a good save, I must say. As much as we like to have fun with Gamer Muscle, that was a good save there.
Those are the saves you love to as a driver, right? Because the car's hanging out, you save it, but you've also got to be ready to get on the brakes because Indianapolis is right there. So as the car's sideways, you're deciding, do I balance it with throttle? Oh, how much brake can I put in? Where is it going to be straight? And then as it snaps into straight, you slam the brake to try and squat the car right into that straight line. And it's honestly, when you save one like that and you still make the next corner, you feel like an absolute god. It just feels so good. You're like, yeah, I did that. That was cool.
Yeah, and let's have a look at that again then. So Gamer Muscle, little twitch, runs a little bit wide, and Tyson, you don't need to ask him twice with an opportunity like that. Because thank you very much, I'll take that spot away from you. James, Hydra, I mean, he's still giving a good go of this, and he's got himself ahead of Gamer Muscle. So I think Gamer Muscle's actually had a slow down penalty out there because he's dropped back a little bit, and Hydra has moved ahead of him now. Casey Kerwin, no real surprise really, he's got the fastest lap, and look at that, that's from on board Jardier's car now. And Matt, if I'm Jardier, it's okay, I need to not panic, not worry, let's try and stick with these guys when they do catch up.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and like I say, he quite clearly didn't have incredible pace, although we didn't get to see it with the deletion of his lap in qualifying and then going out very early in that race. But typically, if you're getting laps deleted, it's because you're already pushing the limits to try and compensate for speed. So, no question, yeah, he's going to be aware these guys are catching hand over fist. But like you say, he can still get a good result out of this, and there's still quite a gap back to Borzazo. So right now, it's really just Casey and Dan that are in the draft. And the draft effects in the GT3 cars, the dirty air effect is about 1.5 seconds back. There is a bit of aero wash. The quicker part of the draft, when you really get into that vacuum, is about 1.1 seconds to 0.9. So they are in that now, and much quicker through the first chicane was Casey. That'll put him in a lovely position down the rest of the Mulsanne, and he might even be on this toward Indianapolis.
Our director's getting very excited in areas right now with how this
That's just true, though. He's
closed
just,
down.
you know, what, I ignore him.
But you can see them then. So Jardier, he's busy having fun with his chat. Casey, a little bit more concentration on his face now. He's not quite as relaxed as he was a little bit earlier on in race number one. But oh, there we go. Now he's back onto a straight. Now kept chatting with chat, and that's one of the good things about this venue, I must say. Whenever I've raced here and streamed on my channel, I love this place because I'm that bored down the straight. It's a case of, well, what's everybody been up to this weekend?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I have been up to this weekend. But yes, this was a 4-second lead at the start. It's now down to 0.2. I said he'd be on him at Indianapolis. He certainly was. Not close enough to go for moving. Now he's Chartier. He was warming up the tires. He's not breaking the draft. He's just been saving his tires. Now he's going to warm them up.
Has Jardier got damage to his front spoiler? to the lip of his front spoiler. It looked like it would, maybe it was the lighting or the paint on his front end.
I can't tell, you're right. I think Casey might have a knock there, though. No, Casey's looks pretty clean. No, he does. He does get a dent right in the middle of the boot, the frunk, whatever they call it in the Porsche these days.
It's usually a frunk, isn't it? Because a boot in Europe, well, in the UK,
it's
in
the rear,
back,
right?
Yeah.
We would say a trunk, but it's not in the back, so the frunk.
Yeah.
Whatever they put in these squash beetles, you know. And that's it for me.
That was entirely Sadekist's views.
Hey, I like the beetle too, so it's cool either way. All right.
Dig your own grave, mate. The leaders are Jardier and Casey Kerwin at the front with Dan Suzuki in second. We've got that race for the lead there as well. The race for 5th place as well. Stradi, Heike 360, Mavix, Quirk is on the back of them again because he did get a slowdown penalty at the start of this race. Now, I'm hearing, Matt, that race control is giving you a penalty as well.
I've got a slowdown penalty. You know, it's not the first penalty I've got in iRacing these days. What can I say?
But we've got 14 minutes remaining, so plenty of time for these drivers. There's no rush if you're Casey Kerwin or Dan Suzuki. 14
minutes still. Wow. I thought we must be getting close to the end of this, but yeah, long lap, long race.
It is. I mean, the race at the start here, it was a 27-minute race in the feature race like we normally do here. Only at the Nürburgring where we end up having it as a lapped race, just purely because of the vast size of that venue. But we're seeing those racers full position then. The two different little races going on out there. Ikey 360's dropped back a little bit off of Stradi, it must be said. And he's going to be looking behind him at Mavix TV for 6th place. Dan Suzuki is onto the back of the battle for the lead. And those three at the front, and Quirk is getting a bit interested now.
Well, he got very wide at Tete Rouge because he's in the draft, and therefore that dirty air we talked about, but each of them went progressively wider until Quirk was almost sideways out on the sort of the blue paint on that runoff asphalt. But now he's got a good run and gets 2 on the straightaway before they arrive at the first complex. So very well done from him. Didn't quite tuck it into the second apex perfectly, but that's because he was just worried about position rather than speed overall. He gets the job done. And he's still close enough on the draft as well to get in behind Strati. So he's making headway now, finally, from Quirk. I say finally. I mean, he's actually racing, but we're so used to seeing him at the front. Speaking of the front, Paul, look at that.
Look at the bump drafting going on there with Casey. He's trying to push Jardier along. It's like, come on, Jardier. I know you want to get a win here, but I can't push you the entirety of the race here. But, yeah, pushing him all the way down the Mulsanne straight then for Casey Kerwin. And those two, there's a little bit of a gap back to Dan Suzuki. Dan Suzuki will just be chilling, having a coffee, just saying, yeah, guys, you two just keep going at it. I'll stick behind and keep you under pressure here. So go through Mulsanne corner, get the launch out of that corner. And this is such a fun run down into Indianapolis. It's a brilliant section of track for me. It's one of the fastest parts of the track down this section here. And yeah, Virage de Indianapolis. It is a true bravery corner. Speaking of bravery, Casey Kerwin is saying, right, I've had enough. I want to the front.
Yep, got to get on with it. And I'm sure he was thinking he may not necessarily want to be at the front given the draft power, but he has so much pace right now over that of Yardier that he's gone. And he's gone at an interesting point as well, Paul. And this is worth noting. He didn't go on Mulsanne. He went toward Indianapolis. He bump drafted down Mulsanne. Now, what that does is actually puts Dan in a tough position because if Yardier doesn't have the pace to keep with Casey right now, and Dan's stuck behind him, he can break that draft and break free. Whereas if he passes him early on the Mulsanne, Dan does the same. Battle resumed. They're still just going to be drafting off of each other, and he doesn't really get that chance. So this could have been strategic from Casey.
Well, we saw it in that previous race, didn't we, how some drivers have more confidence through the Porsche curves. And if Casey feels that he's a lot faster than Jardier through here, which he is, look at him, the gap's just really increased. That, as you say, that was perfect timing from him.
Yep, and we heard that last year, even in the Pesk race at this circuit, that no one wanted to pass on Mulsanne. They all wanted to do it in the Indianapolis so that no one else could follow them through, and no one could redress that pass by getting back into the draft. So it very much, I think, strategic there by Casey. He picked his moment, and although it looked effortless, there was still some thought that went into it.
Well, these drivers, they've been racing on for a few laps now. We're on to lap number 4, lap number 5 should I say, of this race. 4 laps completed, and 10 minutes 40 seconds remaining. Tyson Mayer now coming in with the fastest lap of the race. Quirk has finally got ahead of Mavix and Heike and Stradi as well, so 3 positions gained on that lap. He's now got his sights set on Bolgezazo in front, and he's certainly got the pace to basically give it a good go.
Yeah, you can see he's looking pretty focused this race, actually. He knows he's got 10 minutes and a bit on the back foot for where the guys are in front of him, but less chatter, more pitter-patter. I guess that rhymes. We'll go with that. Yeah.
The modern day bard of Nova Scotia.
The Bard of Nova Scotia. Spare a coin for your Scotian, which technically is called a blue noser. Just to be clear, that's blue, not brown. But yes, it's obviously the schooner, the blue nose. If you're from Nova Scotia, you could technically be called a blue noser. There you go. The more you know, Paul.
It's an educational experience that we provide everybody here on the All Stars show, and certainly one that we all love to bring you here. The All Stars always do give us a good show to look at, and Stradi right now, Javier Soto down the Mulsanne straight, looking on board from Marco Bischoff. Mavix through that second chicane, as we said, tightens up just a little bit, pinches up on that right-hander, and then down towards Mulsanne corner once again, where you turn right and head on back towards where you started this race. As well, look at this already. Quirk has got to the rear of Bolgezazo's car already in this one. His last lap, by the way, was just shy of 3 seconds quicker. That's right, 3 seconds quicker than Bolgezazo.
Yeah, that's pretty foolish. 56.5 for Tyson, which is where we roughly saw him running his pace in the last race when he was out in the front. And Zazo, you're right, 59.2, and I think he's not going to waste any more time behind him. He wants to keep doing 56s, so he'll draft by him. Thank you very much. Poor Zazo doesn't really make that harder than it needs to be, because when there's that much of a pace discrepancy, you're really just costing yourself trying to prolong the inevitable. So he's just going to let him go, because there is still a race behind him. There you go. There's 3 cars coming out of that corner that very much would like to have him fall back into their clutches. So smart from him, and just let Quirk get on with it.
And meanwhile, on the bottom of the screen, Matt Malone and Hydra, I mean, these two, they've always been connected at the hip of these two. And Hydra around the outside in towards Indianapolis. Nice move, that one. Gets himself ahead up into 9th place. Game of Muscle and Altia are two battling it out. And so far, it's Altia who's having the better day here in this feature race.
It is. I like the new livery as well to go along with this Banana Braids Racing. As she said, new Twitch channel. She's hitting the reset button. Sometimes you just have to purge things, reset the focus. Why not? And yeah, I think she's even left sort of the main stable she was racing with for a period of time. And this is the new effort from her. I kind of like it. I like that mentality switch. So yeah, I said we need more yellow on cars, straight up yellow. She's got some. Mm-hmm. And maybe she could drop a few banana peels right now and get Gamer off her backside. Is this Mario Kart? Maybe send the blue shell right now at Casey Kerwin, because he's 3 seconds clear of Dan Suzuki now.
As Casey Kerwin gets the new fastest lap of the race now, so he's setting the pace up at the front. 3 seconds between himself and Dan Suzuki in second place, with Jardier in third place. And then you got this race then. You got Quirk who's in 4th place ahead of Borja Zaza. I mean, Quirk's pulling away from Borja Zaza all along here. This is absolutely incredible drive from Tyson Meyer. Then Borja Zaza, you've got Mavix, you've got Stradi, you've got Heike 360. It's actually dropped back from this little group of cars a little bit. And so they're just getting themselves sorted out. 6 minutes remaining in this race. I reckon we've got about 2 laps remaining, and that is Hydra facing the wrong way.
Just coming in sideways, coming in hot. Gonna get it spun around, up over the curb, bounce it again. Yeah, poor Hydro at this point is gonna be off the rear, falling off the back as we look further forwards, and it is Zazo that's been caught. We mentioned it. Quirk, you didn't want to hold Quirk up too long, didn't want to hold himself up too much because Maxim's getting a little bit closer, and he's gotten by him now as well. So let's take a look at exactly what happened to Hydro. We obviously caught the tail end of that as he was spinning down through Dunlop, and then in... This is a commitment corner. I know it seems tricky. You kind of... I don't know if the aero stalls completely, but you do get into sort of a compression after the apex. You're trying to carry a lot of speed, and yeah, the rear can get a little happy there. So maybe it's a bottom out issue. I'm not sure technically. See, I'm not the thermodynamic, whatever you called it, specialist after all, Paul.
Fluid dynamics.
There we go. There we go. I'm sure the setup's fine. I'm not. The producers in my ear go, "We tested the setup. Don't call us out." I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, based on physics in real life, not even just the car bottoming out and hitting the road, but more that it squats into the suspension and it actually overloads the tire at a crucial point. That's just something that you can't avoid. That's a mechanical issue, not an iRacing issue, just to be clear, because they're defending themselves in my ear, and I'm just, not talking. The less Drew talks to me, the better, Paul.
I thought that was the just generally in life, not just during a broadcast.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But anyway, as we're so going to be on the naughty step after this broadcast as we go through Indianapolis into the left-hander. Dan Suzuki got very wide to Dan out of Mulsanne corner. Now this corner, Arnage, such a tight corner. You've had such a fast track so far. Then you get to Arnage, and every lap that I get to that corner when I'm driving in the sim, I always make a mistake there. I'm either a little bit too hot on the brakes, or carrying a little bit too much speed. You spin the car, or you have the front end push, and you nearly end up in that tyre barrier that's really enticing on the exit of Arnage. It's a really tricky corner.
It is a tricky corner. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That tire wall almost juts back into the circuit. You can get out there, you can get over it, but you're adding more steering angle because you're not coming out straight then. You're actually coming out and you have to jig to the right. And certainly there's a balance, a trade of how much track to use to maintain speed, but then how much track is too much that you're driving the long way around, if you will. So yeah, no, it's a neat corner, but it can be frustrating, especially if you're 2x2 and suddenly you're hip checked into that wall. Barney, all right, look, can we update, can we somehow speak to, like, the Queen and get him an OBE so he's on a better celebrity list so he can do his damn job? You can revoke it after the weekend if you want.
As Stradi, actually, I think has had a slowdown penalty at the back there. He's dropped down to 8th place from that race. But yeah, we're on to the final lap here of this feature race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports All-Stars. And always fun and games with these drivers. As Gaming Muscle, actually, I just noticed on our timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen, changing position up ahead of Altia. So up into 10th place for Mr. West himself. It was looking so promising at the start of this race for Gaming Muscle and for Altia, it must be said. Unfortunately, just those opening salvos of this race really just catching both those drivers out. Yeah,
a little bit, no question about it. I mean, kind of the way racing goes, sometimes there's things that you don't always feel prepared for, or there's different ebbs and flows of a race that go with and against you. And it's such a weird thing because and we're going to take a look at a replay just quickly here of Javier Soto. So we'll see exactly what Strati got into here. This is the last chicane, lots of curb on the inside.
Oh, too
Boom.
much.
Yeah, a little bit too much, and that unsettles it. He does well to keep it in a straight line, but that's certainly going to unsettle the car a lot. And then it puts him out wide over the curb on the exit, and I think he gets a slowdown for that. So either way, yeah, there's different ebbs and flows. And I know the saying is always you can't win a race in the first corner or the first lap, but more and more, and this is why I still love GT racing, because it's not this way, but more and more that mentality is certainly in Formula One, I'll use the example, is you have to have a very good start and you need to make positions on the first lap, because when you settle into sort of that aero lock and the draft training as it becomes and dirty air in F1, it totally throws your strategy out the window. And yeah, that's one of the things I love about GT racing. And even though here, yes, there's gaps that you can't really redeem, you can still make something of the race, despite not necessarily getting the best track position at the early stages.
Couple of close races on screen then. The race for second place, Dan Suzuki going defensive on Jardier with Quirk right with them. Quirk could end up on the podium in this race after having a couple of slowdown penalties during this race, doing a sensational job. And that race for sixth place, those three cannot be separated.
That's all Spanish.
Oh my goodness, this is tremendous stuff, and it isn't all Spanish. 6th, 7th and 8th as Dan Suzuki losing out that position to Jardier, trying to stay on the inside of Arnage, and Quirk is just loitering with intent, a little bit of a nudge. All fair, that's all good, it's all good. Everyone's
still
smart.
Going. This is exactly what Jardier should do right now, though. Okay, they've actually managed to fan themselves into more of an overlap than I thought they had. He tried to give Dan a bit of a draft on the exit because that would have kept him in front of Quirk, which may have bought him a bit more time before Quirk's on the attack against him, and he gives him the inside entry to the Porsche curves. That's a tight position to be in. Manages to hold it. Dan's got the best entry on all of this. No way Quirk's going to hold it. Get out of that. Get out of the throttle. If he tries to go to the outside there, that blue wall is going to be painted with many different emotions and facial expressions from his livery.
Certainly, as the Spaniards were still carrying on racing and squabbling over sixth place. One driver who's not been squabbling, Casey Kerwin, final chicane, he will come and he will see the checkered flag here in the feature race of your Porsche Tag Heuer Esports All-Stars. He takes the win. Who takes second place? It's currently Jardier. Tyson Mayer, Quirk right behind him. That's second and third place in the race of the Spaniards. The battle, the racing for the honour of Spain, and it's going to go to Borjazazo in that one.
Borjazazo, indeed. I think you could say he's more the Carlos Sainz right now, as Alonso didn't have the best day today. Sorry, spoilers, but just want to throw that one out there. But yeah, no, the good race between them all the way through and all the way down the order as well. Gamer Muscle just ahead of Athea Mousson at this point, or Athea Bouk, we should say. Now she's Banana Braids Racing. We've gotten rid of the Mousson part of that, so she's on the attack, but I think she's just too far back at this point. So they'll cross the line as is. Maddie Malone just ahead of them, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and style, but some damage. All right, she's already crossed the line. All fine.
Yeah, she'll get herself across the line there. So while she does that, let's take you to the Bose post-race show here for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports All-Stars. And let's give you your unofficial race results from that feature race then. It is Casey Kerwin who wins by 8.8 seconds. Absolutely incredible gap that he was able to pull at the front, ahead of Jardier and Quirk with a tremendous drive after two slowdown penalties. Dan Suzuki just missing out on a podium spot. Mavix in 5th, a bit lonely in 5th place it must be said, and then Zaza, Heike 360 and Stradi 6th, 7th and 8th with Matt Malone and Gamer Russell rounding out the top 10. There we saw Banana Braids Racing, Althea Bouk just having that spin on her home race. Hydra finishing one lap down and Maxine not finishing the race here. Wow, that was all a bit exciting for the opening of this one. I know we'll get to speak to a couple of our drivers momentarily, but Matt, that was got a little bit of fun racing out there once again from our All-Stars.
Yeah, warming up the track with the theoretical faster cars. Just to note, 3:55.6 Casey Kerwin is the fastest lap of this particular race. Keep that lap time in mind, because last time out at Spa, the Porsche Cup guys, the pros, the incredible sim racers they are, were actually a little bit quicker than that. But yeah, GT3's lovely around here, and it wouldn't be an all-star race these days without Casey Kerwin on the victory lane, as I think you call it in ovals. Am I right?
Yes, that's indeed it.
Nice, victory lane. Casey Kerwin Alley, as it's now becoming known. Good job again today. I said you got a haircut because you had less drag on those straightaways. You were looking pretty quick.
Yeah, it was good fun. We obviously the racing, with how long the straightaways are, it's all about draft. And unfortunately, with qualifying, with the time we were in, I got a slowdown on my first lap, and then I was so slow serving the slowdown, I didn't complete the second lap, so I had to start in the back the first race. But yeah, it was good fun all around, good racing. Thankfully, I survived the starts both times, and I thought I was gonna get the quirk in the first race, but not quite. But then thankfully, we're all together at the back to start the second one, and yeah, I don't know what happened to quirk at the start, but me and Dan got away, and then just kind of worked our way up to Jardier there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and typically never really been a huge fan of Le Mans because I've always struggled at it, but it was really enjoyable, and the setup being medium downforce was very sketchy, especially in the Porsche curves, but it was a good time.
Porsche curves definitely was one that I expected, but you were also hanging it out in Tete Rouge like every lap. There was a couple of slow-mos. I said you're good at like road racing and oval. I didn't know you could drift as well because you were really holding on to it.
Yeah, I don't know what corner that is, but
sort of the fourth or fifth.
Is it like
onto the Mulsanne straight, the last right-hander before you hit the long straight?
Oh yeah, that was very sketchy as well. Anything high speed was very, very hard to handle. I've come to learn driving this car, I destroy the rear tires, at least compared to Quirk. Because after one lap, we're pretty equal on speed, but then after that, like Quirk just keeps hauling the mail through the fast stuff, and I'm just sitting here crashing, hanging on for dear life. So, yeah, it was interesting for sure. Quirk's really quick in the fast stuff. We've come to learn that the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great having you, and congratulations on the win today. We're going to jump over and talk with Jardier as well, because he gets on the podium after a lap deletion in qualifying and then a pretty abysmal DNF in the first race on lap one, not even a lap completed.
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, I'm prepared. The quali was, 2 seconds, and I could have been like P6, but the time ran out, and big sorry to Tia to scare her in the first race. Yeah, I completely miscalculated the gap there and just turned too early and killed myself. So yeah.
At least it was you that went out and no one else, right? At least you don't feel as bad about it. You feel worse if you make the mistake knowingly and someone else pays the price. Exactly,
that's what I was saying as well. Like I was so sad for the mistake, but I was at the same time I was very happy. I literally just made a suicide, and that was it, So yeah.
But did a lot better in the second race. I know Casey was kind of playing with you once he got up behind you on the straightaway a bit, but managed to hold your own against Tyson and Dan, who are both quick in their own right.
Oh, yeah. Obviously the guys had massively bigger pace than me. And Casey was playing with me, humiliating me for 2 laps, And then the last lap, the slipstream, as you can see, is massive in these cars, on this track especially. So I just tried to play it smart, and somehow it worked for my advantage in the end. And I was really hoping to at least hold the P3, but I'm super surprised that we managed to have such an incredible fight with Dan and Quirk in the last lap, and it played out, yeah.
Absolutely it did. Yeah, congratulations. Good job on the podium for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, I think it was fun to watch as well. I do love that reverse grid for that aspect because obviously it gives you a chance for redemption, as we know. Now, we've got Jim East with us, or James West, and the first question, I've been wondering this. What is the most developed muscle on a gamer?
It's got to be one of the digits, probably your index finger, I'd have thought.
Okay, I was wondering that too. Maybe thumbs, but console gaming is not real gaming, as PC Master Race. So
hang on, with your heritage, you should be pure PC. Where's this console peasantry come from?
That's exactly it. I was bringing it out to call them out. It was a setup. You had some fun today out there. Different exchanges at different points in the race. Not the best pace we've seen from you, if I'm honest, but still a good day out.
Yeah, it was great fun. I was discussing this with the chat. I think the issue was that the screens were too big and we need to dismantle them because they were producing a lot of draft, and that's why we were failing to catch, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of brightness. You might get a better gamer tan, though, with bigger screens.
That's where I get all my vitamin D from the monitors.
Just running the blue light filter, getting in there, shining yourself up. That's perfect. So index finger and gamer tans. That's the way it should be.
Can I just say, I've got a shout out to you and Paul for doing that top-notch job on the commentary, guys. Everyone in chat should big you up.
Oh, perfect. That's good coming from you, because I know you're a fan of Paul, but I showed up in your chat once and you didn't even realize it was me. So you're making up for it now.
Well, I don't want to encourage you too much. Your head's getting a bit too big, so I've got to keep it deflated a little bit.
Hang on, if I back up, it gets smaller. See? It's smaller on camera, just like that.
Perfect.
Well, good to have you out today. Well, I can't wait to see you in the final race at Monza as well.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be really interesting to see T1 spectacle. You know what Monza T1's like. It's gonna be a firework display of vehicles.
Do you want to come in and maybe show us how it's done at Monza? You can come in and commentate with us.
Yeah, that could be an idea. Well, we'll see what happens. It could be a spectacle.
I think it'd be fun. I think we might all get fired at the end, but it would be entertaining.
Is this just a way to reduce the chance of carnage occurring?
Maybe, actually, but that's honestly. Why don't we just do it? You can still race the All-Star. We just do the Supercup race.
Yes, I'm up for it. If you're ready for it to be a disaster,
I'll talk to my people. I will talk to. It's always a disaster with the Supercup drivers, anyway, as we know, right? So you didn't hear that from me. Thanks so much, Gamer Muscle. Maxime, what happened? I think you got kind of clipped when you were going for the Apex. Not entirely your fault.
Yeah, I thought there was enough space, but then, the rear end of the car got hit, and that is where it all ended. So, that's unfortunate, but I tried what I could do.
Did you add another helmet to the shelf?
Yes.
Which one?
Yeah, we got the 2022 Max Verstappen helmet. So, newest one, but I'm moving next week, so I have to pack up all my stuff here.
What is with everyone in this series moving? Like, Gamer Muscle moved his rig, Dan Suzuki just moved, now it's you. Like, are you guys all moving to some special place that you're going to turn into a sim race mecca or something, or...?
A secret sim race house, where we can all teach each other how to be faster. So, maybe. It's a secret.
I would say if you can all get faster, but don't take tips from Gamer Muscle. That's all. That would be my only word of advice on that.
Yeah, he's a bit chaos sometimes, but I think he can still teach me something.
Well, maybe. I do like the helmet collection, and double Lando, double Max. I'm a fan of both those. Yours probably looks the nicest, though, in my opinion. I do like the original design. Yeah,
it's great. Like, I always wanted my own helmet, and I thought, okay, let's do it properly. So that's how we ended up with this.
I'm the exact same, because at my level, I don't really need a painted helmet, but I've always wanted one, so I was like, I'm doing it, don't care. It just looks cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, awesome. We can't wait to see you out in, 2 weeks' time for our finale at Monza?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you there. Thanks so much, Paul. Pretty good day, again, I think, for the All-Star race. Always entertaining, and it's good to hear their personalities at the end of it as well.
Yeah, and it's good to speak to some of the drivers who we haven't spoken to really all season, so that's really good to hear from them. That is going to be the end of the Bose post-race show here for the All-Stars event, but we head on over to the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup with our coverage of that. And, we saw plenty of drama and excitement out there for the All-Stars. You can see some of the action that happened in that feature race and how there was how those drivers got on out there. But it was a great result in the end from Casey Kerwin to get the win, and get the win by good move. But Matt, the All-Stars, tremendous stuff.
Oh, it's awesome as always. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we'll know what car we're going to be in the final race, because that was obviously voted on by the drivers. But we've had such a great display in each of the 3 cars we've seen so far this season. And it's always just such a great warm-up for what comes next, the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup with some of the best drivers in the world, Paul.
Certainly. So, with that, looking at some of the action that went on, let's have a look at the schedule then, because for the All-Stars, you mentioned it there, we do get to decide who was the driver vote. Well, the votes have been totted up, everybody, and you can see it's going to be the 992, the car that we started off with for the All-Stars at Monza. So that is going to be the car that these All-Stars will take into Monza for them next week, in 2 weeks' time, should I say. But let's have a look at what happened last time out at the Nordschleife in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. We head on over to the Nürburgring talk us through this magnificent circuit.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Green flag. Away we go then at the Nordschleife to the inside. Alejandro Sanchez to the middle. He's going for third place. He's trying to get ahead.
And now there's a queue because they had to go. And it's Alejandro Sanchez that forces the issue because
Into Tierkamp they go. Middle time in the sprint race. Job to the lead of this one then. He gets to the line first. Across the line they go in this sprint race. And it is Job who takes the win here. Round number 8. Green flag in the air. It's a good launch from Max Benneker. Incredibly, everybody has made their way through turns 1 and 2. But Job and Campbell, they're dropping down the order here.
G cars! Oh
Big
no!
good job! They're around! The two of them have come together as championship fight going away once again at the Nürburgring.
Yes, and not someone we would have expected to talk to. Sebastian, you certainly had pace today. You showed that in race 1.
Once again with this format, some terrible luck.
Well, though, at the front, here we go. Benneker trying to get the first lead for him in a long time in the PESC series.
Zach Campbell sliding throughout now for us. Look at Dane Warren's expression is just pure focus right now. Moving ahead of Pinto. Look,
Pinto's
Pinto
in.
to the inside. You can run too wide through there. So it's going to come down to the Dottinger Heuer once again on the final lap. Ellis Jr. on the grass there. He's pushing as hard as he can now as we're heading towards the end of the lap here. How has he held that one? That is incredible. Warren's around. He's around. Charlie Collins though. He's at the front of the field. We're gonna have to.
He's got a slide. He's got a slide.
Oh my goodness. Here comes Benneker. Charlie Collins. He's weaving. He don't want to celebrate too early, but Collins does just get that win ahead of Benneker.
After 8 rounds of blistering action, 4 drivers find themselves within reach of the championship and the $50,000 grand prize that comes along with it. Whether they're a former champion keen on reclaiming his title,
Sebastian Joe is the world champion!
or a first-time hopeful looking to make history.
Diogo Pinto, who wins this one across the line.
Each has shown the skill, talent, and luck to make it this far. But today, the battle is more than just each other. Today, they find themselves at a legendary cathedral of motorsport, designed to test the limits of both man and machine. Le Mans. Miles of high-speed corners and higher-speed straights, all winding through a French countryside synonymous with racing pedigree and endurance. Legends are made at this track. Today, we find out who is next. Who will set themselves up for a final round showdown, and who will get one hand on the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup.
$200,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is racing for immortality. This is esports personified. This is the Porsche Tag Heuer.
Well, we are down to the penultimate round of this championship. Just 2 more races, or 2 more rounds of the championship to go here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. And well, this race for the championship, it's coming down to just 4 drivers. Realistically, we would say that Diogo Pinto and Kevin Ellis Jr. are the 2 main competitors, but you can never write off Sebastian Job or Zach Campbell here.
No, you really can't. I think you've said it right. The front 2 are certainly where the focus lies, and it really is on them to make a mistake to allow Zach Campbell and Sebastian Job back in, and that's kind of the story here. If you look at wins across the season, Sebastian Job has the most of them, no question about it. And we'll look at the points right now to just encapsulate this point I'm trying to make. But he's had, what, I think 7 wins now across the season? 6 wins, excuse me. But the podiums, despite only having 1 win, Diogo Pinto's been there, and I am including sprint races, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So it's the consistency. I mean, in any other year, Sebastian Job winning as many races as he has, you'd be looking at him at the top of the table. But Diogo's just been brilliant throughout.
He's been Mr. Consistency, absolutely. So 73 points covers 1st to 4th place right now. And at the end of this round here, you've got to be within 85 points to have any hope of taking that championship race to the final round of the championship. Let's have a look at where we are here, and it is the Circuit de la Sarthe in the north of France. Historic venue, of course, been racing here for decades in the 24 hours of Le Mans. Opened in 1923, we're coming up to 100 years of the circuit, and certainly it is a track that everybody wants to have a win next to their name around this venue.
Absolutely, yeah. This is, I mean, you could sit here all day and talk about the most significant races on the planet, but you may have a different result or a different outcome of which you're backing in that argument, but you can't even have the conversation without mentioning this track, the Cirque de la Sarthe, the history here, and I mean, yeah, you're right, just about every champion driver in any category. It's part of the Triple Crown for a reason. It's on the bucket list of every driver who thinks they have a chance to go, and many more. It's on my bucket list, and I'll never go. So there you go. I mean, it's just such an incredible place to race a car, and I'm sure that weighs on your mind. I'm sure if you ask any driver that's done a lap around here, they're sitting on the Mulsanne thinking, my God, I'm driving on the same straightaway that literally every hero I've ever had has also driven down.
And it's a venue that has so much history for Porsche as well over the years. It is just a tremendous place. Here's your format for today then. It is a 3-lap sprint race. They're currently in the qualifying process at the moment. The top 8 from the results of the sprint race will be inverted for the grid for the feature race, which will be 6 laps in length. So double the length of this sprint race coming up. And, well, the drivers are all prepared, they're all out there, and some better lit than others, it must be said, but certainly the drivers are out there getting themselves ready and prepared in qualifying. They're all focused here on one thing, and that's just absolutely nailing that lap that you need around here.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And unlike what we saw in our All-Star race, just as it has been all season, it is not an open qualifying. These guys are on the track to themselves. They do effectively have 2 laps. Now, that is a longer lap here, but they're all aiming for 1, and we've seen that all year. They're warming up the car. They're getting it done. They're very much that confident in their ability that 1 lap is all they need to try and duke it out for pole position. And pole position has been closely contested this year as well, Paul, as we look at where we are with one more race, the Monza finale after this one. But this is where we are with our Tag Heuer Pole Award. And it's Sebastian Job that leads the way on it, but Dane Warren, pretty solid also with 2, could easily come back on this, as could Diogo Pinto.
Certainly could, and of course the winner of the Tag Heuer Pole Position Award does get themselves a Tag Heuer connected watch as well for the honour of taking the most pole position. So it's something that you want to get, and Sebastian Job, if he gets another one here, he will be absolutely signed, sealed and delivered in getting that Porsche, well, Tag Heuer who sponsor Porsche, but it's the Tag Heuer connected watch that he would win if he does take that pole position here today in this race. But we've said it all season long, there's only been one round where the pole position sitter hasn't taken the victory in the sprint race. For me, here today, this is the most likely round where that pole position award doesn't necessarily mean a race winning the sprint race. Did I say on the one? Sebastian Job won last time out. He didn't get pole position last time out.
No, he did not. You're right. It was only 1. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dane Warren started the trend and then broke it, but now it is 2. I mean, it's still a pretty ridiculous stat to have. Quick maths here. 6 out of the 8 races that we've done be able to win from pole, especially when you consider that we're in a spec series. The drafting is very solid, and some of the tracks that we've been at have long straightaways where that draft is certainly substantial. So it's not like we've had processional races by any means. There's been tons of overtaking. It's just that person seems to be able to just edge it out.
Yeah, certainly. One of our race winners from this season, unfortunately not able to make it here today, which is Ayachan Guvan, who has his commitments for Porsche. So unfortunately we do miss him from the grid, but there's plenty of talent and plenty of race winning ability out there on circuit. And here's somebody who's under, I would say he was under pressure, but he's not.
I mean,
the pressure's pretty much off him.
Yeah, he wrote himself off. I mean, if you remember or recall, at the end of the last race, we spoke with him, actually, during the race at Nürburgring, and he pretty much said, championship over now. It's, despite the comeback. And as I said, 6 wins, again, including sprints in that, but 6 wins this season. He pretty much knew that his chances were done after that incident with Biko at Nordschleife last time out. So he's, maybe you're right, taking some pressure off himself as a result of that. As I told him in that interview, anything can and will happen. That's usually the way things go. Anything can and usually will happen in racing. So Diogo Pinto, Kevin Ellis Jr., despite them having a pretty healthy margin it's up to them to make a mistake or maybe get caught up in someone else's drama. That's all it takes, as we see the green wing and mirrors to indicate that Sebastian is very much still a part of this. I take it back. The mirrors are still red. I'm just apparently colorblind, but still very much a part of this championship hunt. As is Zach Campbell. It's the banner that's green as well.
And also the top portion of the number board as well is green as well.
Yeah, it's
so
tougher to see, you know?
Yeah, it's difficult to see, absolutely, especially on these panning shots that we have. But Zach Campbell, last minute preparation, getting his car where he wants to be. And as we come through the final chicane, he will now push on and try and get himself. There you go. There you see that number board then. But this is now the start of his qualifying lap. This is where these drivers now will really need to focus up and push on to make this lap count. It's one lap qualifying basically for these drivers.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's by design. These guys are that good and that comfortable. You know, I would like to have 10 laps if that would be all right with you, Paul, with fresh tires every single lap. But these guys are comfortable doing it in one. And just to note, we're putting a lot of emphasis, and rightfully so, on this sort of championship finale coming up in Monza, and obviously this being the second last round, the penultimate rounds. There's also the relegation to include, and the reason I bring that up is it's the top 15 this year that automatically requalify for next season of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. Pinto's made his bed for us today, so I think he's been making this bed all season. He just wants to have a nice championship sleep inside of it in 2 races time, or 2 rounds time, I should say, not to confuse the sprint and the feature race of each weekend. But the top 15 as opposed to the top 20, and you've already mentioned a driver that I think might be, if ever, eligible for exemption to that. Aichin Guven was actually in the championship contention in the first 3 rounds that we did do, and obviously his real-life obligations as a full-fledged Porsche factory driver have come to interfere with that. And I think, you know, if you look at his consistency and how he did perform, barring Canada where he didn't have enough time to practice and just showed up for the event, if you were ever going to give a driver an exemption, that might be the time to do it. And I know, yes, he's a factory driver for Porsche, and that might say favoritism, but maybe that's also why, and maybe they should do it because it's good for the brand, and he's shown that he's certainly eligible. But if not, he'll have to requalify, just like many drivers, including potentially Graham Carroll, Thomas Tettila, Johan Harth. These are big names that have been in this series for quite some time.
One driver who's had a sensational season, it must be said, this man right here, Cooper Webster, even with his Formula Racing commitments for himself down in Australia, he's been an absolute revelation for this championship as Cooper, and putting some tremendous performances throughout this season. And if you think, you know, he got a podium at the Red Bull Ring in the sprint race, he got a podium in the feature race at Spa as well, which I think is the best round of the championship we've ever had. He's been absolutely brilliant, and a breath of fresh air to the championship.
Oh, completely agree. I genuinely think that, you know, it's not if, but when this guy wins a race. I'd love to see him do it this season as a rookie, just to make that point and really staple it. But it also shows the popularity of sim racing. And, you know, S5000 in Australia is, you know, essentially their Indy car, their national open wheel series. They're quite powerful cars. Not quite as technologically advanced as Indy cars, certainly not as Formula One, but they're a national series, much like V8 Supercars, and you're trying to get some stardom and some recognition nationally. But I didn't know Cooper Webster until he arrived on this stage, the sim stage, and I didn't know much about him at all. And it just goes to show you how big sim can be, even for a guy like him, to help promote his real life driving. And it's testament to what Porsche is doing with this series, what iRacing has done with the entire platform, and certainly, you know, Race Spot and all of the related sort of content creators around it to give it that legitimacy.
Well, there goes Max Bernecker then across the line. That's the target for everyone. 3 minutes 59.2 is the time we're looking for. Morena Sarica has actually beaten him with a 58.8. So the Williams Esports driver putting in a great lap time. This is said with Biko. Pinto to the head of your standings right now in qualifying, with Julian Sonin not that far back in second place, so he's got some good lap time in him as well. Those times are going to start coming in thick and fast right now. Graham Carroll into fourth place in qualifying, Jamie Fluke third, Zach Campbell second now, puts himself second, Kevin Ellis Jr. to the head of your standings, with Jeremy Bootsloop joining him now in second place.
This is the car we have to watch, though. This is the car we have to watch. If Graham's that close and you've got your other championship challengers up at the front, this is the lap for Sebastian Job. This could be a pole position.
Well, Kevin Ellis Jr., he's got fond and bad memories of this venue here in this championship, but Sebastian Job, look at him launching over those curbs across the line. What is his time going to be?
Did it count? Oh, he did.
It's there at the top by 2. Well, a tenth and a half over Kevin Ellis Jr. I can tell you for a fact that those two, they were racing against each other in the British version of this series. You could not separate those two drivers of Job and Ellis Jr. And for them to carry that on into this Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, absolutely sensational stuff. We've got drivers who have not set times. Charlie Collins, Bobby Zelensky, Sam Kiter, Jack Sedgwick and Josh Thompson all have not set qualifying times out there.
Yeah, wow. We know Tete Rouge could be, there's a number of spots you can get caught out. You are having to put so much commitment, and you could see it with Sebastian. I knew he was going to be on a good lap. You could see it in his driving as soon as we jumped on. But when he hit that last sausage curve and the car got a little light and I saw him shake his head, I thought he even X'd out of it. I thought he was going to get his time deleted, let alone even get a decent time should he have crossed, and he gets pulled. That was a remarkable lap. I think he lost time on that very last apex and still gets away with 1/10, which is massive in this series. So well done to him.
Yeah, absolutely sensational qualifying. The times, the gaps between the cars is just once again just mind-blowing how close this series is, and it's a testament to how close this championship is. And there you go, his 4th pole position of the season, but crucially for him, it also guarantees him the Tag Heuer Pole Position Award. Sebastian Job will be walking away with a Tag Heuer connected watch, so congratulations to Sebastian for that. But let's have a look at the rest of the grid then. We'll have to fire through this one because Kevin Ellis Jr., championship contender, on front row with him there. Alejandro Sanchez, really good second half of the season for him. Second row of the grid with Jeremy Bootsloop, Dane Warren and Diogo Pinto, your championship leader, row number 3. Zach Campbell and Salva Talons row 4 with Sonnen and Webster, 2 rookies, and row number 5 with Dino Lombardi and Jamie Fluke, row number 6. Row 7 for Sarika and Sippler with Carroll on row number 8 with Pete Ferryman alongside him. Johan Hart and Thomas Tetler, row number 9. Row 10 for Biko and Beneker with Violate and Giassi, Grabowski and Bixrud round out row number 12. Row 13 for Charlie Collins and Josh Thompson. Collins, he'll be disappointed with that. Sam Kiter, Bob Zelensky and Jack Sedgwick round out your grid here today. 29 cars and 29 drivers will be taking to the start of this race. Very, very quickly here then, Matt. Who's your call for this first race?
I'm going to say it. I think Sebastian Job. I know he's not necessarily in this, but that's why he might be the one to watch in this race. Kevin Ellis Jr. is not going to risk much against him, and Alejandro Sanchez certainly can be aggressive. So I think Sebastian's in a very good spot and nothing to lose. Maybe not a championship favorite right now, but he's going to go for it.
Well, the driver's patiently waiting for the green flag to be waved. Away we go then for the sprint race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup at Le Mans. As we head towards turn number 1, it's a good launch by Sebastian Job. Alejandro Sanchez is trying to follow him on the outside line. It gives you the inside for the chicane. Onto the brakes, cold tyres and cold brakes, don't forget. Will everybody make it through cleanly? Job and Ellis Jr., they were together, but the Junior has just dropped in behind. At an instant for Tetler, Half, Sarika and Berryman, they've all dropped down to the back of your field. But we'll keep with these live pictures. How
Yeah, it's crazy to think, right? I mean, the Nürburgring was a very short race in terms of laps, but the distance and obviously time is still there. And here we go, draft already underway. Alejandro Sanchez, technically under a different stable than that of Kevin Ellis Jr., but both very much associated with the Apex brand. And I say this, there's not a team championship, but they'll be working together a little bit, and Alejandro doesn't want to go with Kevin, but gets in behind him. There may have even been a bit of a bump draft. That's a big slide for Sebastian. That's going to heat the tires up very early. They're still be coming up to pressure and temperature, and with that carcass being soft like that, very easy to damage the cords and the integrity of that tire early on, and it's going to compromise him as well down the straightaway. He might lose 2 positions before we're even halfway done this lap.
Yeah, Job just dropping behind Sanchez then, so it's Ellis Jr. at the head of the field. You've got the pack as well behind. They're all duking and chopping and changing. Zach Campbell was making a move as well. He was looking to Jeremy Bouteloup as they come out of the second chicane, and we've got a spinner further down in your field, and that I believe, well, I got the call, the 47.
Yeah, that's what I got too, but that's Alejandro Sanchez, and he's quite clearly still in our picture at the front, so I'm not sure who we lost in that. Johan Hart's certainly gone off the timing screen, so I'll have to keep track of who exactly that was, but it is going to be Sanchez boxing out Sebastian Job on the exit of Mulsanne corner, and just trying to make his life a little bit more difficult, as obviously the draft goes back in Sebastian's favor, having conceded the lead. But he's pretty much, at this point, again, not a team's championship, but there is a relation between both Sanchez and Ellis Jr.'s sort of alliance, and he'll be wanting his teammate to get the best possible result. Look at who else is in there. Dane. Oh, no, Sebastian! How did he save that? How did he save that? Oh, my good God! Car control if I've ever seen it, and he might have a horseshoe up his butt, because that's a bit of luck. How does Sebastian get away with that?
That is absolutely incredible. I mean, what damage will be to that car now? That's
Forget it. You get away with that? You've just been told by a sign of God that you are in this. Get on with it, son.
Well, Sebastian Job, he does lose 1 place. He loses 2 places, to Warren and to Jeremy Bouteloup, but he is still in this race, crucially. That car, it just looks completely clean to me, as they go along towards Porsche curves for the first time. But Job, you can see the focus. You can tell he's not happy with what's happened there.
Brush it off, man. You could be a lot more disappointed right now. You should have been in the wall. That should have been race over for Sebastian. And he's still going, and sure, he lost 2 positions. He's still right there. He's on the draft. That's insane. That's the same spot on the track last year that I will wholeheartedly call him out. He made a very over-aggressive move, went 4 wide, and caused a huge accident. This time, I don't think it was his fault at all. Let's look at this, Paul, because, man, he just snapped sideways. We saw Dane come into it. Dane comes out. Dane came right out. How did he save that? There was not secondary contact to push him straight. That is
incredible car control from a former world champion, don't forget. The 2020 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup champion, Sebastian Job. Yeah, he's shown a level of car control that is beyond our comprehension. Is all what I would say about that.
This is why I wish we had more cameras on every single cockpit and get a driver's eye POV. I want to see his hands in that. I don't even think he went full opposite lock. I don't think he left the wheel and hand over handed. I think he just went straight on it. Like, that was just so quick, so concise, and dead accurate with that correction. My God, I said that was luck. Sure, there's a bit of luck involved, but it wasn't secondary contact. He just full on drove that.
Well, let's take one final look at that then, because that is absolutely incredible. And this is from behind, and you can see Warren just comes out. I mean, you've got to question what was Dane doing there to come out so much there when he's got a car alongside him.
I think he just had the blinders on. I think he was in the draft. He realized, I'm going a bit quicker. I'll move over a bit, and he completely oblivious to the situation that Sebastian was there. He certainly saw him, but I think he just had a momentary lapse.
Well, let's just take stock, because we've got 2 laps remaining in this race. It's Kevin Ellis Jr., your race lead. Alejandro Sanchez in second. Dane Warren and Jeremy Bouteloup third and fourth places. Then Sebastian Job fifth ahead of Zach Campbell. And your championship leader, Diogo Pinto, in 7th place. Salva Talons currently has the reverse grid pole position right now. He's on for a good result in 8th place, but Cooper Webster is not that far behind him. And just to keep you abreast, if you're wondering why we've got the green highlights on those drivers' names on the left-hand side, it's the same thing as the banner, the windscreen banner and the rear wings. It's to show who is a championship contender here in this championship. Right now, Kevin Ellis Jr., he was pushing the boundaries and the limits of getting a corner cut penalty right then through the second chicane at the Michelin chicane. But look at the queue of cars behind. This is what Le Mans does to drivers and does to the cars. It's just all in that drafting train.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question about it. And it's closed up again because things settle a little bit on this second lap. Bit further back, Benica out wide. I think he definitely got hip checked. I'm not sure who that was, one of the RG drivers, but he dropped a wheel onto the dirt. I think that was enough to slow him down. I don't think he got a slowdown penalty from it. I think he just lost enough momentum, so he's losing further positions as he continues to tumble down the order. Alessandro Bico, Biscarud, Violette, they all go by, and Sam Keitert as well. So now he's just in front of his teammate Jeff Chiassi at this point. It was Violette, that's your RAG driver in that queue, so that's who gave him the old bump and rub, and out you go.
But this is the thing, it's close quarters racing here. It's almost like cage fighting is this one, with how brutal it can be at times. Everybody wants to be in the best position they can be in here in this championship. We're on board with Jeff Giassi then. 20th place in the sprint race, points go down to 20th. So this is the last points paying position that we're seeing on board with the Porsche 24 by Team Redline car. Worth pointing out as just a bit of parish notes for everybody. Josh Thompson is no longer a privateer. He has joined Team Redline, so he's now
good for him
in their livery. But
I think I'm most excited because now he'll have access to real setups and not Craig's setup shop. Because Craig, I'm just saying, bro. No, look, Craig's setups. People are going to take me seriously if I keep knocking on them too much. They are great setups. I just like I like to hit on Craig whenever I get the chance.
Well, here we go then. Start of the final lap. We've got the best part of 4 minutes remaining in this race here, and it is still Ellis Jr. at the front. He's got a wingman in Alejandro Sanchez, as pointed out by Matt, though. They're not technically teammates in this race, however, they are part of the same outfit of Apex Racing team. It's no team's championship, but it does help to have some friends out there on track. And then you look at that, 5th place, Sebastian Job, 6th place, Zach Campbell, Diogo Pinto, 7th place right now. So they're gaining a few points here and there over Diogo Pinto. But Pinto won't be too worried here, Matt. He's in 7th place. That's a front row start for the feature race.
Absolutely. And this guy's been chipping away all season and getting those results. I mean, 7th would be, I think, below average if you put all his finishes together. But like you say, front row start for the feature, which awards more points. This point in the season, he's going to be loving the sound of that. So, yeah, look, Sebastian, he was my call for this race after what happened early on. Okay, maybe he's just lucky to still be going, but he can still get forward on this. He can still find some positions here. It is the final lap, but a long lap at that, and we've got a lot of drafting still to go.
As we're going through, that's through the Daytona chicane, newly renamed for this year, as they go down the second part of the Mulsanne straight. And we're heading towards the Michelin chicane now, the left, right, left. Sanchez is trying to do a little bit of blocking here, I feel. Or is he going around the outside? He is. So Sanchez to the lead ahead of Kevin Ellis Jr. But this is all about giving Ellis Jr. a bit of draft. But right now, Dane Warren, he's looking very feisty. He wants a race win here. You got to go all the way back to Montreal, the feature race. And look at that, Warren, down the hard shoulder. And they're going 3 wide, almost 4 wide into Mulsanne corner. Ellis Jr. just a nose alongside, but Dane Warren does take the lead right now. But Ellis Jr. won't be too worried about that.
Not at all, but what a lovely play by Jeremy Boots-Lou to help his teammate and Dane Warren. Obviously, he was boxed in, had nowhere to go, but he bump drafts him, and that lets his teammate get past both Sanchez and now it's Kevin Ellis Jr., but he's left out. Everyone says, oh, you got help last time? Cool, we're just going to get in a train and go right by you. And here's Sebastian back in the position where it all nearly came unglued, but he's boxed this time, nowhere to go. It's looking like NASCAR draft packs 2x2 at this point.
Campbell. Look at Zach Campbell coming alongside Sebastian. He's just gained a position there. Sebastian, by being boxed in, has lost a position to Zach Campbell. And Campbell now trying to move forward.
Pinto's on the outside.
He's got the good run out the corner, though. That's what he needed to get ahead of Dane Warren. So Campbell gained 2 places in that move.
He did, absolutely. I thought Pinto might be in a bit of a spot of bother. If Sebastian wanted to, he could have just ran him out a little bit wide and gotten cheeky on that, but he backed out of it before the apex, so that even though they were still overlapped on exit, they were single file, and that's smart from Pinto. There's no need for him to be taking risks right now. Yes, the closest to him in the championship is Kevin Ellis Jr., but it is still a very healthy margin. What is going on?
That's Dane Warren. It's Dane Warren in the background. Job, and we believe it was contact between him and Warren in the Porsche curves. We'll have a look at that in a little bit because we're coming in towards the end of the lap here. And crucially, it's the man in second place in the championship who is leading this race into the final chicane. Kevin Ellis Jr. has just got 3 more corners. He's got 2 more corners to go. No mistakes. And Kevin Ellis Jr. is going across the line. He's got a race win. You can see what that means to him. There's a car off in the background. Who's going to be to the line? Cooper Webster is going to be our reverse grid pole sitter for the feature race.
Yeah, sat 9th the entire time, and I said I'd love to see him win a race this year as a rookie. But this is what happened with Sebastian Job and Dane Warren. There was so much traffic. Dane was leading the race just before this. I said they all drafted by. No one wanted to help him. They left him out all on his own. So Porsche curves, outside run. Sebastian keeps his nose in, rightfully so, at this point. And look, if that was a move off of a straightaway under braking, I would say, Sebastian's not far enough along. The fact that he held the outside and then it switches back, I think you have to respect that he's there. Now, it did look like he chinked a little bit to the right, and that might have caused it, but it definitely could have been more racing room left there.
Well, here's your provisional race results then. Of course, it is Kevin Ellis Jr. who wins that one by just under half a second ahead of Alejandro Sanchez. Jeremy Booth, home race, gets himself a podium. Really good way to get towards the end of his pro racing career here in esports. He finishes on the podium. Zach Campbell 4th ahead of Sebastian Job, with Diogo Pinto in 6th. Salvatore in 7th, and Cooper Webster, there you see, reverse grid pole position. Dino Lombardi and Julian Sonnen round out your top 10, with Collins in 11th place. That's a really good drive from Charlie after starting at the back of the grid. Graham Carroll in 12th, Kaita, Biko, Violette, and well, let's have a look then again at this one, because I'm sure, Matt, this is going to be a talking point.
Oh, no question that it will be. As I say, there's an underlying factor that's not talked about often in overtaking. I mean, there he's perfectly side by side. I think he's far enough along that racing room has to be left, and I think it just they pinched into each other too much. I kind of think Dane could have left a bit more on that one, but there is a factor in overtaking that the car overtaking, if you think, even if you're not fully alongside, that the driver on the outside can still sweep into the corner and make the corner, you're more inclined to take that position. But if he can't make the corner, you've got to back out. In that case, I still think Dane could have made that corner. So Sebastian is going to be thinking, I am fine to be here. It's still safe in this situation. But speaking of situations, it's narrowed down a little bit, hasn't it, this points total?
Yeah, it certainly has. Just 18 points between Pinto and Ellis Jr. Job is now 53 points back, with Zach Campbell then in 4th place, 70 points back. Remember, at the end of this week, if they're not within 85 points, they're out of the championship running here in this one. But that top 4 still incredibly close between them, and any of them could still win that championship. But Job has caught up points here in qualifying and in this first race. As we say, though, as always with these results, they are provisional here in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about that. Provisional, they'll be reviewed. There is penalties. That's the other incredible thing about Diogo Pinto's season. He has a 20-point deduction from a penalty earlier on, and yet still has had such a total. This guy, man, okay, look, Sebastian, what the hell was that save? I, honest to God, was about to say he's done, he's out, he's gone, and you just pulled... Forget Colton Herta at Indy. That was ridiculous.
It's just a bit of luck, to be honest. His car straightened me out. It's nothing special, to be honest. I think most people could do that.
Okay, so was there seconds? Because on the replay I saw, it looked like the initial contact was there and that you got on it and somehow came back. I didn't see the secondary contact to push you straight. We got to hear in slow-mo, so you can walk us through it.
I mean, like, he hit me, and obviously my wheel just goes the opposite way with the force feedback. I just held it that way and then kind of hope for the best. I think I stayed full throttle to try and power through it. Let me see.
Yeah, that's you got your replay there. So it looked like maybe there was a slight touch. Your front right locked because you were that far sideways. It no longer had rolling momentum, and that you still pulled that off. I was thinking you'll be frustrated because obviously Dane pulled over and
yeah, I don't know what that was all about.
I think the blinders were just on because he was drafting and I think really he just had a momentary lapse of judgment, to be honest. But you saw, Paul was going, he looks upset with that. I'm saying, man, he could be upset all he wants, but he's still in this. That was incredible. And obviously it cost you a few spots, but you still got some points from this.
Yeah, I guess a bit of luck and a bit of misfortune at the same time, because unfortunately, if you have a moment like that, your tyres are ruined. And there's nothing you can do when everyone's working together anyway, so...
Yeah. Well, now you've got reverse grid. Your teammates up front. Maybe there's still some hope in it yet. And look, racing goes both ways. You never know mathematically where you'll be at the end of this next race. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I thought there was originally, Paul, just based physically, that it looked like there was secondary contact, but the replay does it. It's kind of inconclusive. I'm not sure how much of a touch it was. I think Sebastian just had lightning quick reactions as well. Bit of both, obviously.
But it shows the standard of drivers that we've got here in this Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup, and a former champion from 2020 as well, don't forget, Sebastian Job. So he's somebody who knows what it takes to win a championship. And well, we've just got 3 races remaining in this championship, 2 feature races and a sprint race remaining in this season. And we will take you to your starting grid momentarily here for the feature race here at round number 9 at the Circuit de la Sarthe. And I can tell you, it is Cooper Webster and Salvatore sharing the front row, with Pinto and Job sharing row number 2, with Campbell and Bootluke row number 3. Row 4 for Sanchez and your race winner Kevin Ellis Jr. and row 4 then. Row 5 Lombardi and Son and Collins and Carroll. Look out for those 2 in this next race. Kaiser and Biko with Violatti and GRC. Thompson on row number 9 with Bobby Zelensky. Sipala, Benneker won't be happy with 20th. Bixrud, Sedgwick, Tetler, Fluke. In the final few rows, Grabowski, Warren, Sarika, Berryman and Hart round out your grid. 29 cars on the grid here for this feature race. And it's an absolute pleasure to have you all here as well, joining us for this event. It's the feature race, the main race of round number 9 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup from the Circuit de la Sarthe in the north of France. The green flag is out and we are underway here. Good start from Cooper Webster. Nice launch from him at the start. He's got Salvatore behind him. Pinto in 3rd place with Job alongside him. We look further back in your field here, looking from way up above now. Do they all get through the chicane on this first time? They're going 2-3 wide. Further back there's a spinner, that's Pico, who's around at the back and he's just getting tagged. Very little people can do there, and Thomas Tetela, an innocent victim there.
Yeah, absolutely, get tagged. I'm not sure which red line car that was. I would assume that far back was it.
I thought it was actually
Benneker? Okay, so maybe, sorry, that's right. It was a VRS car, my mistake. Yes, absolutely. And I think you're right. It was Warren that got into him, obviously being far down on the grid from the last race and just couldn't get it collected after going wide. Bit of contact, but man, what a start. You nailed it on that one. The launch from Cooper Webster was perfect. His car was moving before everyone else. Not that he jumped the start, because I saw the light go green. He was just lightning quick as well, and now he's in a great position. And Sebastian Job back to 5th already. He was running 3rd at one point, but got side by side with Pinto, who now sits in that last podium position. Early days though, one of six laps, so we've got double the distance this time around.
Yeah, double the distance, which means it's not quite much of a panic or a fast-paced, force your way through elbows out style of driving. It can be a bit more thought through and a bit more methodical here. And we saw how in that last race, even on the last lap, Kevin Ellis Jr. and Sanchez, they switched positions down the Mulsanne straight, but then head into Indianapolis. That was the crucial moment. You called it in our All-Stars race, and you called it in that first race, Matt. It's the move out in towards Indianapolis is where you need to be making the move on that final lap.
Absolutely. You want to do it as late as possible so as there can be no return serve, if you will. And that's definitely something to be looking for. Sebastian's already moved to his right to try and get out of the draft. He wants to get by Zach Campbell now, his teammate. And this is an interesting one because he said everyone's working together as if to indicate, look, I've got less teammates in this fight to help me. His teammate's leading, but as a rookie, I wanted to see him win a race. What does he do to try and help Sebastian if he can claw through and get close at the end? Again, no team orders, but you don't look. If I'm Sebastian's teammate right now and he's looking for a hope to get back into this, you don't have to send me an order. I'm probably going to do it out of my own kindness as his teammate. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
But you can't. There are rules against purposely giving a position.
Not necessarily saying that,
maybe snatch a break and go a bit deep into a corner.
And even that, but not even just necessarily getting Sebastian forward, but also just holding people up in front, being extra defensive and making sure that no one's going to break free and that he can take advantage of that behind.
I said Charlie Collins might be one to keep an eye on in this race. He's already up to 8th place on this lap, 3 positions gained from where he started. And look at this, Salva Talons, it's Spaniard versus Portuguese as they're heading in towards the Porsche curves. It's the race of Iberia. Can they sort themselves out? Yes, they can. And
he's gone wide though.
Wide.
He's wide, but he gets it back. He didn't go off the track. He didn't drop a wheel. Didn't have to have any instances with car control. He'll keep the tires happy, but it does allow this crossover to go the other way. And if he can get boxed out, this is tough. Sebastian's going to be licking his lips, but trying to find the right moments. And he'll get it. Does he get both? I think he gets both. I think they both lose momentum, and that's exactly what Sebastian wanted.
That was beautifully done by Sebastian Job. Waited for the opportunity, and that's moved him up into 2nd place. And more importantly, who's at the front of the field? It's Cooper Webster. What car does he drive? Oh yeah, it's a Red Bull liveried car.
Yeah, they've got wings now, 1 and 2, and we'll see exactly how this works. Cooper's got enough of a lead right now that if they calculate this right, he can lift off enough to get Sebastian in the draft, but not fully back off and bring everyone into tow. And maybe he can try and get Sebastian forward with him. But right now, Pinto still sits in 3rd, and that is a lovely points total even still, because at this point, he just needs to chip away at that lead.
Well, if you're Pinto, as long as you're scoring big over Kevin Ellis Jr. right now, because that gap did reduce down to 18 points after qualifying and after the first race, because of course there are points given for qualifying as well, don't forget. If you're Pinto, right now I'm not too concerned sitting behind Job and having Campbell behind me. It's Ellis Jr. that's my main concern right now.
Absolutely. No, and that is exactly how you have to think about this. There's no need for a risk from Diogo Pinto. Now, he does have a lovely draft and not a lot of risk involved in that, but Sebastian shouldn't really be his concern, nor should Zach Campbell be, the other of the 4 drivers adorned in the green banners this time out in Le Mans. But Sebastian, on the other hand, will be able to just fight forward knowing that Pinto's probably not going to do anything uncharacteristic, and he still has 1 car in front that is a friendly car and could take advantage of that.
Yeah, he certainly can. And Cooper Webster, I mean, we've sang his praises all season. He's the leader of all the rookies in this championship here this season. It's been a revelation, and he's been what Red Bull, the Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports outfit, have needed here this season. You pointed it out throughout our coverage here throughout the season. It was lacking last season, having that extra support that Sebastian and Graham are getting from Dane this season.
Oh, and I can tell you straight away, I mean, I know that it's not just the extra car on the track, it's the practice time. I know that how hard Graham and Sebastian were working last season. Not to say they're not working hard This time, if they were borderline burnt out, they had to put in so much time on track to just the two of them get feedback, on the setup and the direction they wanted to go with it and get the laps down. And strategically, practice races, you've only got 2 cars on the grid. What are you going to do there? It makes a huge difference just to lighten the load on the two returning drivers, the veterans, Graham Carroll and Sebastian Job.
A look behind you, Jeremy Bootblue and Alejandro Sanchez, they're absolutely together, side by side, down towards Indianapolis. Charlie Collins is trying to follow his way through as well. We've got a race for 11th going on as well. Sam Keita, Salva Talons, who's dropped down the order after starting on the front row of the grid. And Quentin Violate is involved with that particular race. You can see on the bottom of your screen. Race for second. And look at that, Cooper Webster is getting closer to Sebastian Job. So Job has been on it on this lap and has been closing up to Webster. Unfortunately for Job, he's dragging Pinto and Campbell, his championship rivals, along with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Cooper's done this well. He's got him to exactly a position now where he can capitalize on the draft, but doesn't want to get too far back into the clutches. The problem is that Sebastian, even though he's in the draft, they're in his, so they will still get pulled forward as well. So I think it's just going to be a straight race at the end of this. And hey, I wouldn't want it any other way, would we, Paul? That's what we love this series for. It's so competitive.
Yeah, it's just absolutely brilliant is this championship, and it's been an absolute pleasure to bring it to you all season long. Of course, don't forget, this isn't the final round. This is only the penultimate round of the championship. We've got one more round in 2 weeks' time at Monza. Make sure that you set yourselves up and get reminders for that one. And if you are enjoying this series and want to keep up to date with everything going along and happening in this championship, then go to iRacing.com/PESC, where you'll get details of the standings and the drivers. And also, while you're at iRacing.com, why not sign yourself up and get yourself to become a member and join us here on iRacing to get and participate in racing. Start off your career on iRacing. Every day's a race day, and you'll certainly have a lot of fun out there.
Oh, tons of fun. No question about it. It's even aside from the racing, just the experience of driving circuits that you've only fantasized about or seen on TV or seen on YouTube, I guess these days I should say, Paul, if I want to be more in touch with our generation. But yeah, absolutely correct. You can get in a bunch of different cars, tons of different Porsches and a lot of world-class circuits and get that sort of vicarious experience. And I say vicarious, but it's very much a real experience in sim now. It's getting so good.
It certainly is. It's tremendous. Now, we were looking at that little train of cars of Bootlup, Sanchez and Collins and Ellis Jr. But we'll look a little bit further back because Jamie Fluke, 15th, you got Max Benneker there in 16th, Johan Hart making the move and getting a position gained. And that 83 of Bobby Zelensky didn't look happy out there. Dropped 2 places
I think he got
Tim Lombardi.
A little love tap on the way in, I think, which shot him a bit beyond the braking
leaders.
points.
There's the change of the lead. Then Sebastian Job to the head of your field. This is going to be a big weekend for him if he does get this race win here. You never write out a champion and you never write out a championship.
Well, this is interesting because we still have 3 laps to go in this race, and they've swapped in the draft already. So, yeah, I think they're going to play leapfrog. I was going to say you've got 2 choices. You bump draft or you leapfrog and try and pull each other along because it's too early to try and break off and go defensive. Because if Cooper goes defensive now, without doing anything egregious, eventually he gives up the position and Diogo goes by, and then they've lost this team's position right now. You still want track position for both cars. So back and forth, every chance they get right now without bringing Diogo into it, they're going to swap positions to try and basically slingshot each other further up the road.
You may have seen in the background of that shot at Mulsanne corner, Charlie Collins made a mistake, drops the position to Kevin Ellis Jr. Jr. was struggling to get past Collins, and so that will be really helpful for him. Job back to the head of your field, and that's exactly what he needs to do, and this is what they need to do.
Exactly that. This is the fastest way of doing it. Let each other get the draft. You're both going to get faster on the straightaways. You do it cleanly. Don't defend each other. You want to try and basically accelerate this entire train, and by keeping them the faster two and leapfrogging, even though Pinto's there in the draft and stays with both of them, he can't pass them. He can't get by them while they're doing that. And a bump draft is one way of doing it, but a bump draft is going to slow the second car a little bit and allow Pinto a chance to pass potentially if the momentum's lost too much. So this is smart so far, but it's still a long way to go. And this is going to have to be almost perfect from Red Bull to try and keep Sebastian clean and out of harm's way in this for the win.
You saw on the replay in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen exactly what happened to Charlie Collins there. He was alongside with Alejandro Sanchez. Here we go, another look in that bottom right-hand corner then at the replay. There's Charlie Collins trying to go the long way around Mulzan, and Sanchez, a little bit of a squeeze, and Collins just loses that momentum into the gravel, and that loses him the place.
Loses him the place, and he's about a second back on that as well, because he would have lost all his momentum heading onto the straight after Mulsanne corner. But this is enthralling. This is, again, not a team's championship, no team orders, but no question these guys will be working together in any way they can to get them further up the field. And I don't mean that in any way that's outside the spirit of the rules. This is what you'd see in karting between teammates. This is what you'll see in Formula One back in the 70s at times, when you were just trying to keep each other from tripping over each other but trying to go further up. It doesn't happen quite the same these days with DRS and all sorts of other reasons, but this is just strategic driving rather than any sort of manipulation, to be clear.
Kevin Ellis Jr., by the way, this last lap did set the fastest lap of the race so far of 4 minutes .041. Why don't we take a little bit of the sounds of the race here with our Bose on board? So, as you can see, Cooper Webster has moved back ahead of Sebastian Job down the first part of the Mulsanne straight. Pinto was having Zach Campbell have a little look at him into the second chicane, but no move forthcoming there.
I guarantee you Sebastian would have been looking in his mirror being, come on, Zach, get in there, Zach, go. Because Zach is still behind mathematically of Sebastian in this championship, and it's more points away from the man who's leading it, Diogo, and now Diogo knows that pressure's on. He knows that Zach's trying to make a move. If Sebastian's smart right now, hang the car on the apex. He's going to go for the lead instead, but somehow they need to pull Zach along. Nobody help Diogo. Leave him on the island right now. They're going to try and break draft. Oh, they are going to pull him forward. I thought they would try and get Zach Campbell ahead of Diogo just to give themselves a buffer and leave Diogo on the inside with no one to pull him up the circuit.
Oh, this is just a battle of wits. This is, I said it at the start of the season at Hockenheimring, that it is chess at 180. Now there's contact between Webster and Campbell. Campbell's into the wall. He keeps going though. Incredibly does not lose a place in all of that. This is the second piece of incredible fortune to happen that we've seen out there from Contact.
Dear God, how are they getting away? That's well over 200 kilometers an hour. Now, this time there is visible damage to the front left of Zach Campbell's car. He is, that was a heart rate moment. I wish we had heart rate monitors on these guys in situations like that. That was Weber. You're absolutely right. He moved to the right, but Zach had a good run. Not only was he alongside Pinto, he was trying to make a move to get up into second on that. It was just, I needed to see a better look to see if it was anyone's fault or if it was just simply a racing incident where they were both, similar to a motorway where you're 3 lanes wide and 2 cars go for the middle at the same time.
Yeah, you can see he's just trying to calm himself down, trying to control his breathing. But yeah, that got the heart rate up, did that moment, because suddenly you get that rush of adrenaline come into your body just when something like that happens. And yeah, these drivers, you have to be physically and mentally fit to compete in these races and in this championship. Let's have a look then. This is the view from on board.
Yeah, that's a tough one because Cooper's already gone for the overlap and they just kind of trip. Zach still has more speed, and I don't think Cooper's ready for him to come alongside. So it's a racing incident more than anything. And man, a slap of the wall, keeps it straight and manages to get it turned in and on the brakes for Indianapolis. That is pretty incredible, I have to say. And Zach Campbell, that damage might give Diogo Pinto a bit of a breather, and Pinto's going to be loving it. Again, he's able to stay out of the dramas. Consistency is the key for him this year.
Yeah, absolutely tremendous driving. Kevin Ellis Jr. now, your winner from the sprint race. He's currently there in 7th place. He cannot shake Charlie Collins off of the back of him right now. He's got Alejandro Sanchez ahead of him, where if he does make a move on Sanchez, I don't think there will be much of a defence happen there. Meanwhile, Zach Campbell, with a slight bit of damage, what's that going to do to his top speed down the Mulsanne straight? With him being in the draft, I don't think he'll be affected too much. It'd be if he was on his own out there. But he's struggling to catch up to them, isn't he? He's stalling out with that slight bit of damage.
I think he is a bit. The draft certainly is going to keep him on it and keep him in contention, but if he gets broken from that, he's not going to have the pace in that car, I can't imagine, to get back into it. Man, oh man, he's doing very well right now, though. I thought Diogo would be safe from this threat, but Zach's not giving up. He refuses. He's a fighter in this championship, and up ahead, they're going to swap positions again because they've got the gap to do it. I'm not going to elect to do so this time. Job will stay further forward. 2 laps to go. And Pinto holds third. You can see it when they get up toward the top of the speed there. Pinto gets a draft forward. He gets pulled toward the Red Bull cars. And unfortunately, Zach's pretty much topped out. So there is a bit of an aero drag problem right at the top end of the gears.
And look who's coming on to join the party here, because you've got Jeremy Bootloop, Alejandro Sanchez, Kevin Ellis Jr. That is crucial in terms of championship, joining in with this little train. You've also got Charlie Collins on the back of that one. So 8 cars all together, almost make that 9 cars. There's a move from Ellis Jr. and that's on Sanchez. There's contact. Now, has Ellis Jr. got damage? Is he running slow? Has he got maybe affected his steering with that one? Oh, it's a slow down penalty, Kevin Ellis Jr. That's the last thing that he needed at this stage of the race.
That's absolutely unfortunate for him. 18 points the difference. He is the best positioned mathematically to try and do something in this championship, and now he's going to fall behind Graham Carroll outside of the top 10. I say it behind Graham Carroll. They're still neck and neck at this point on the circuit, but oh, poor Kevin Ellis Jr. is doing everything he can to stay in this, and he's been another driver that deserves credit for consistency. 4 podiums this year, and 1 win. It is going to be contact. That's Cooper Webster. So now Sebastian Job flies on his own because Cooper's pushed into the wall.
Yeah, that was Pinto and Webster there between the two of them, and I'm sure that there'll be a few words said in that one. Now, this is Ellis Jr. that we're on board with in the replay in the bottom. Oh, that's a bit of a late move. And he's touched those green bollards on the inside of the corner. That gives him the slow down penalty.
Yeah, I don't know if he caught himself looking in the mirror or just missed his reference with the lack of downforce coming out early and then offline a little bit. He certainly did that to himself. He definitely went further right because he knew he was going to get into his teammate, knew the contact was inevitable, but unfortunately clipping that cone. But this is a good gap right now. 2 to go. It'll be 1 across the line. And Sebastian Job has almost a second, but my God, he better hope he nails the first half of the lap, because if they hit Mulsanne, he's going to be a sitting duck.
Well, it is championship 3rd place, Sebastian Job in the lead of this race. Championship leader Pinto, who we're seeing in this replay, a little bit of a squeeze with Webster, and Webster does clip that wall with that squeeze. Oh, I'm sure the stewards might be a little bit busy after this one with a couple of instances where it's a bit questionable, but we'll leave that to those post-race. But yeah, it is championship leader Diogo Pinto, 2nd place, a second off of Sebastian Job right now. Zach Campbell, 4th place in the championship, is in 3rd place. There's a little bit of context to those front 3. Then Jeremy Bootloop, I said he's having a good end of this season here. He's in 4th place after finishing really well in the first race as well. Here's Kevin Ellis Jr. now. He's got Graham Carroll. Now these two, These two have got a bit of history from this year, from the British version of this championship as well. So those two know each other very well out there. And it's actually Sonnen. No, it's not. It's Sam Kiter.
Yep.
Trying to split them, but not forthcoming so far.
Now, the interesting aspect of this, just to look back to the front of the field, is that, yes, Sebastian Job will get 50 points for a victory, but had Webster been able to hold on strategically, he would have gotten 45, and therefore the deficit would have been 10 points to Diogo Pinto. Now, him being in second, it's only a 5-point difference. So a win, phenomenal win from Job if he's able to do it, especially considering the pace he has. But it could have been cost. That was a lot of weaving. That could have been hugely controversial and massive contact if it had gone to it.
Yeah, Graham Carroll and Sam Kiter making a little bit of contact. There's Quentin Violate from downtown in towards the chicane. Doesn't quite make it. Ellis Jr. is compromised. He's going to lose positions as Ellis Jr. This is crucial for the man in second place in the championship. Yes, he won the sprint race here today, but right now he's falling backwards in this race. Sebastian Job, he is in trouble right now because Pinto is right
Pinto,
where he needs to be.
I thought he was deep.
Further back.
They all get through. No, they don't. No, they don't. Wheel touching. That's not going to work. Wheel-to-wheel contact that chucks Cooper Webster into the air. And I believe it was the 40 car. Who is that? That's Sonnen that was actually touched into the wall as well. But you're right. It was on for Indianapolis. And Diogo Pinto is absolutely on the charge.
Pinto to the lead, or is he? Because Job is alongside him here as they're heading in towards Indianapolis for the final time in this main race. The two side by side onto the brakes for the final time into Indianapolis. Job can hang it out around the outside. That's a brilliant drive
this is
through
smart.
that corner. And look at that, Campbell to the inside of Pinto. That's going to help out Job because it's taking points off of Pinto.
I guarantee you check the data, Job just braked earlier than he has for Arnage all race. The second he realized he had compromised Diogo's line by holding the outside and Campbell was there, moves over. I'm going to slow down a little early. Oh, I can't imagine why. Oh, because Zach Campbell now could take those 5 points back off Pinto, but he's not quite there by Porsche curves.
That damage is costing Campbell a few kilometres an hour at top speed, and that is the difference there. Now, Pinto is still right behind Sebastian Job. You never say never in this championship. There could still be a move made, but he doesn't need to make a move. Pinto can quite happily sit here and take that second place if I am him. Consistency has been key for his championship so far, but look to the front because Sebastian Job, he has got 2 more chicanes to go in this race, and he is going to be a race winner once again, the winningest race winner in this championship, the 2020 champion, across the line and takes the feature race win victory here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup.
And if it weren't for the season that Pinto's having, it would be an incredible one from Sebastian Job. Wraps up the pole position award today, the Tag Heuer Watch. He's got 6 wins on the year now. And yet Diogo Pinto refuses to put a foot wrong. Comes across the line second, and with Ellis Jr. way down the order, he is in a perfect position for Monza.
Ellis Jr. finishing 8th, but let's go to the Bose post-race show here on our coverage of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup penultimate round from the Circuit de la South. Let's give you your provisional race results. It is Sebastian Job then who wins this one ahead of Diogo Pinto by just over half a second. Zach Campbell, 3rd place. 3 of your championship protagonists, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. With Jeremy Bootloop, 4th place for him. Eda Sanchez, Webster, Collins. Ellis Jr., 8th place. Gained some points back. He was down in 11th at one point. With Sonnen and Sam Kiter rounding out your top 10 with Talons, Violate, Giassi, Hart, Lombardi, Beneker. Bad day for Max out there today. Kamil Grabowski, Matej Sipler, Bobby Zelensky and Jack Sedgwick in 20th place. Rest of your results: Fluke, Carroll, Tetela, Bixrud with Josh Thompson, your last point scorer. Tarika, Berryman, Bika and Warren all do not score points. Wow, Matt, we need to take a breath. We need to do some back of an envelope maths to work that one out. But you've got our race winner.
Yes, I do. Sebastian Job Another victory for you this season, 6 now, including the sprint races. You wrapped up the pole position award today as well. I didn't mention that earlier when we spoke to you. Look, if not for Diogo Pinto and Kevin having a very consistent year, this would be an incredible season from you.
Yeah.
Not to take away that it isn't. The way I said that made it sound like it's not, but you get my point.
I agree with you. I personally feel like I've driven really well this year, and I don't want to cry about it or anything, but I don't feel like I've had great luck. But on a personal note, I've been very happy with how I've driven. Was really good teamwork with Cooper today. I'm very unfortunate that he didn't get to join me in the top 3, because I think he deserved it. But yeah, it was nice to get another win, but need some big luck if I want to beat Kevin or Diogo, as you say, because they've had a great season. So
yeah, absolutely. Cooper, I feel for him because rookie leading the race, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he, lets you get up in the draft so you guys can work together a bit, and compromises his own. But that's pretty selfless of him as a teammate to try and make sure that he could give you the best chance today of anyone.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the draft was so strong that even at the 2-second gap he had, I was like gaining a huge amount on the straights from him. So it wasn't like we had to slow down. We just kind of we were like, let's just push because we can drop the guys behind from 5th backwards, and we did for a bit. But yeah, once I did catch up, then it was kind of we didn't really speak about any priority or anything. It was just every straight we were asking each other, like, what are we doing here? What's the plan? Because we were just trying to keep everyone else behind, and as it got nearer to the end, that got trickier and trickier. We didn't think Pinto was going to go for the move when he did on lap 5. Otherwise, I think we probably should have played it a little bit differently. So yeah, it wasn't perfect, but up until that point, it was going pretty well. Just a shame couldn't go to the end.
Wow. Yeah, for Cooper. Nearly did go to the end for Diogo, though. You guys got side by side and you managed to hold on. How excited are you to get a nice new lovely Tag Heuer Connect watch?
Yeah, very excited. I actually already have one, so...
Well, there you go. You got one for each arm now.
I'll get another one.
If you get a third one, you can be Lewis Hamilton.
Well, 3 on one side.
Yeah. What's the rule on sim? Do we have to make you take off jewelry? You're not allowed to wear that watch?
No, because you want to check your heart rate afterwards to flex on Twitter. So
I want to see your heart rate from that save, to be completely honest. That was still ridiculous. You and Zach Campbell both, because he had a similar one in race 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah. Him and Cooper touched wheels, and Zach slapped the wall. Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah, that was very sketchy.
Well, either way, congratulations on another great race, great win. And look, I'm glad to hear you're positive despite the situation point-wise, because you've driven very well, and another great win for you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and hopefully I'll speak to you again in 2 weeks.
Hopefully so. I'm sure there's someone else that very much wants to speak to us again in 2 weeks. Diogo Pinto, you nearly went for the race win because you were in a great position toward Indy, but it's not even about that now, is it? You're just looking to keep out of the drama, surely, at this point.
Today was a bit of damage limitation from me. I got a warning in qualifying right on the first spot of warming the tires, so I couldn't do basically the last track, so which cost me 5 or 6 tenths. But luckily my lap was good. I was able to be in the top 8, and then in the sprint race I decided to just collect the points and remain in the top 8. For the main race was a bit more eventful. In the first lap I had a fight with Salva, and then we had a gap for the pack, and afterwards was just a chill race.
But again, chill race is key, I think, right? I mean, surely you're looking at Kevin mostly, but even when you're behind Sebastian, or you're not going to take as many risks, I imagine, unless you you nearly won this today too, and that would have put a statement on it, absolutely. But 1 to go, and mathematically, it's pretty solid.
I was going for it at the end, but Sebi did well to defend the inside there, and he held really well the outside when we switched over to Indianapolis. So there's not much I could do, but I'm happy with P2. Let's see. I don't know what's the gap now. If I extended the gap, I guess it's more or less the same because I lost points in the sprint and quali. But
so I can tell you the gap. It's marginally less, but you're still in. Actually, I think it's 3 points higher. You're at 37 points right now, heading into the final round. So that must feel pretty good.
Yeah. So it's one more.
Oh, one more. Okay, I thought it was 34. I'm not as good at math either. There you go. But one more point isn't bad, considering there's one less round when you look at it that way, surely. And look, love to let you know I was just in Madeira in Portugal and had a great time. So nice to see you doing well for the country. And hopefully in 2 weeks' time, you'll have to be able to. I know you guys are known for wine, but some champagne to celebrate. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Just keep things rolling. As we'll switch over to another man who continues to keep things rolling now. This time, unfortunately, mathematically, fallen off a little bit, but still a heck of a season. Zach Campbell, another podium for you today.
Yeah, pretty happy with it. I mean, third and a fourth, can't really ask for too much more. That was probably the tamest race you're ever going to see here with the series here. I mean, it was, that was interesting, a little bit tactical. I had a lot of fun racing Seb and Diogo up there, I think, and Cooper as well.
Yes.
A lot of fun today. I mean, it's so interesting here.
Goaltenders, I don't know about football as much, but in hockey, they name their posts because they're their friends whenever the puck hits one and it saves them. Are you going to name the barrier toward Indianapolis today? Because that was a ridiculous save as well.
I don't know. I don't know what quite happened there. I haven't seen a replay yet. I think me and Cooper just decided to drive into each other on the straightaway. Both of us just hit each other, I think. That was a hairy moment. That was a little scary that I wanted it to be, and I know it kind of hurt me there the last couple laps. I wish I could have gotten a little closer to Diogo and Seb, but I mean the car had both sides torn off it. I mean I was just trying to limp it home almost. So it's I may have to name it eventually.
Yeah, you might have to screenshot that car and keep track of that too, because that was pretty ridiculous. As you said, there was visible damage, and it was evident as well. You were driving the wheels off it, keeping with them, but then you get toward the end of the straight when that draft would just get out of reach, just that little bit of straight line. But I honestly thought you were going to tumble down the order, and you did a remarkable job to stay where you were. I'm sure that was hard work.
Yeah, I got lucky. I was very thankful to have my teammate and Jeremy behind me and treat me so kindly on the last lap there, and just try and kind of bring me home. I know it's his last season, so very, very forthcoming in his gifts in retirement. So I will absolutely take anything and everything. Super awesome just to have him behind me and help me out today.
Yeah, absolutely. And great race again. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the finale.
Yeah, hopefully we can talk again. This has been nice talking a little more this season than last.
Yeah.
Just one last thing. I want to say congrats to Christian Steele. I've learned he's a good friend of mine, and I learned he won the iRacing Indy 500 today. So really, really happy for him. I just wanted to give him a quick little shout out there. Thankful to the whole VRS Coanda team. And yeah, absolutely just great day. Nice to have a little solid day and not be in between first and 31st for once.
Well, there you go. Not too bad at all. And thanks very much, Zach. Paul, that's, I think, a great way to end it. Obviously, there's some positivity. Look, none of these drivers, I know we're saying who's winning and therefore who's losing the championship, but all of these guys, these four especially, have been so good this season.
They certainly have, and it's really been such a competitive season. It's absolutely tremendous to talk about. Let's have a look at those standings, though, then. As you say, 37 points between Pinto and Ellis Jr. Sebastian Job has brought that gap down to 48 points between himself and Pinto. Zach Campbell still mathematically in with a shout. However, he is 75 points off of the championship. It's worth pointing out as well, it's that 15th place, Ayeshan Guvan there, 14 points clear of Thomas Tetela going into our final round of the championship. Of course, these standings are provisional, we must say, pending any post-race penalties.
Well, just quickly as well, the top 10 have technically qualified, again, pending post-race investigations and provisionally. They have requalified for next year, so it's really only positions 11 downward that are still in that sort of that threatening position of being relegated or having to requalify. But, as we just heard as well, this is, and we've said it all year, this is Jeremy Boutelout's last season. Yeah. So even though he has qualified, it doesn't mean someone else gets bumped into an automatic qualification position. It does mean there's more qualification positions available. So we're going to have a lot of people really putting the best foot forward next year and could see some exciting new drivers potentially even.
Yeah, what a strong season for Bouteloup as well. What a way to go out. And, well, speaking of going out on a high, It's been the traditional finale of this championship every single season. The Autodromo Nazionale Monza, a tremendous venue, always gives us drama. And we get to go there in 2 weeks' time for our Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Championship finale. Do not miss that one, because we will crown a champion there that round of the championship. But Matt, what a day it's been here at Circuit de la Sarre for penultimate round of the championship, and we've still got 4 people in with a shout of the championship.
Yeah, what a showdown that's going to be. And Diogo Pinto, I mean, at this point, I almost think he deserves it. I know Sebastian's won more races, but how consistent in a series like this has he been? As a sophomore, he was a rookie last year, and he's just emerged in this 992 and made it his own. So we'll see what happens at Monza, but he's in a lovely position right now.
It certainly is. Well, it's been a tremendous day's racing. Started off with the All-Stars and then finished up with the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. There was plenty of thrills and a couple of spills out there. How Sebastian Job held on to that? Well, he says it was anyone could do it. I think it takes somebody special to do something like that. That was in our sprint race, of course, which Kevin Ellis Jr. won here in this first race of the day. Dane Warren, Sebastian Job, that could be a talking point going into the final round of the championship. But then, as you see, Kevin Ellis Jr. taking the win in that sprint race. This feature race, again, plenty of drama. Cooper Webster led for a while. It was a rookie at the front. We thought that maybe he could get at the front of the field, but at the end of the day, it's Sebastian Job who takes the win here today in the feature race. Make sure you join us in 2 weeks' time at Monza for the championship finale, the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. From everybody here, it's goodbye.